Once peace reigned, a majestic capital basked under endless azure skies while happy citizens thrived. But through these vibrant alleys, fate whispered a warning. In one heartbeat, tranquility shattered forever. Pure terror grips a mother and child. Nearby, a man freezes, sensing a shadow eclipsing the sun. Heaven ignites, ancient dragons descend, raining fire and death. The land bleeds as humanity becomes mere prey. This nightmare endures for 13 grueling years. Against these winged gods, mankind is utterly helpless. Our numbers dwindle to nothing. Suddenly, steel flashes. A dragon falls split by a blood-stained warrior. This knight refused to break. He carved a path through legions of drakes, never once wavering. His name echoed the firstborn of House Arden, the Empire's most legendary lineage of blades. The West's supreme prodigy. His title struck fear into the heavens themselves, the Dragon Slayer. The Hydra Empire's final bastion. A lone broken hero standing amidst the ruins of his world. His body shatters. The Dragon King's might grinds him into the dirt. He spits blood, mocking his weakness. Before him looms Drakeseth, the sovereign of calamities. Drenched in gore, the hero struggles to rise. Drakeseth is a god among monsters. A titanic surge of energy erupts, consuming the field and slamming into him. Reality tears apart. Agony swallows his senses as he sinks into darkness, his father's face, the last vision. A heavy burden was passed to him. Father. Ethan whispers a silent apology for failing the mission. His promise remains unkept. He remembers the cold rain at his sister's funeral and his vow of vengeance. He swore to purge the continent, but now he feels like a fraud. He pleads for his brother's forgiveness. Taryn, Myers, their sacrifices were for nothing. He finally drifts into the cold, empty abyss of death. Then a voice. A familiar melody calls from the light. His fingers twitch, a spark of life returns. Ethan gasps, eyes flying open. Hovering above him is his sister, her voice desperate and sweet. He freezes, heart racing. Is this a dream, sister? He croaks, staring at the face he buried. Tears stream down her face. It's me, Ethan, she sobs. You're finally back. You're finally awake. Panic surges. How is she here? This is impossible. The sister he once loved perished in that brutal ambush. He remembers her coffin and his own death. Was it all a lie? Now in this quiet infirmary, the shame of his failure stings. He died without saving a single soul. He's a failure who saved no one. Yet looking at her, he realizes something is fundamentally different. Her clothes, her warmth, it's all wrong. In his previous life, things never felt this peaceful. Regrets about his distant past plague him, but he forces them down. He needs answers and fast. Thinking he's in heaven, he asks, so, what's the afterlife like? His sister's eyes go wide. Don't you dare, she cries. She begs him to stop throwing his life away for a lost cause. Ethan is lost. What is she talking about? Nearby strange magical devices pulse with a soft rhythm. A gentle smile crosses her lips. She's just happy he's alive. I'll go make some soup, she offers. Wait, she's cooking, just rest, she insists, pushing him back. I've got everything under control. He nods, confused. His sister couldn't even boil water before. Has her entire soul changed too? The moment she leaves, he sits up. His body feels light, but he needs to see the truth. His eyes catch a faint glow. Tubes are pumping the legendary spring of life directly into his veins. High-tier life support. This gear is reserved for those on death's door. Why is he hooked up? He raises a trembling hand. His muscles are gone. He's thin, weak, and utterly fragile. His monocore is a desert, a monocrash. Even in death, my luck is trash, he mutters. Standing is impossible in this state. Unless, he looks at the glowing fluid. Time to take what's mine. He grips the tubes, forcibly draining the liquid mana. A violent surge of power roars through his system. It's enough. He swings his legs out and stands testing his mobility. The internal damage is healing. He stretches, feeling the gears turn. Suddenly the door creaks open. His sister is back with the tray. Soup's ready, she calls out. But she freezes. Ethan is already standing by the window. Ethan, what are you doing? She screams, terrified. You weren't even supposed to be able to move. Her jaw drops as she finds him standing. Ethan coolly reveals his wounds have vanished, flexing his limbs to prove he is fully mobile. She stammers that the medics predicted 6 months of grueling rehab before he could even take a single step. He presses for the timeline and her answer hits like a freight train. He was in a coma for 10 long years. A whole decade gone. The thought echoes in his mind as she gently forces him back down, refusing to let him overexert himself. Tucked back in, she begs him to eat, but Ethan brushes her off. He is convinced he has actually crossed over to the afterlife. He questions the mechanics of this spirit realm, but his curiosity is cut short when her eyes well up with painful tears. Stop talking like we are ghosts, she screams, desperate to prove he is breathing. But Ethan remains dead certain that he and their siblings all perished. She snaps back, denying his words, and demanding his absolute focus on her. Setting the record straight, she clarifies, this is no ghost world. Every single one of their siblings is still alive and breathing. Ethan sits in deafening silence, his mind racing to reconcile this impossible reality with his own dark memories. The Dragon King's blade through his chest felt so real, yet here he is. A wild new theory begins to take root. Did he actually survive that slaughter? Is this real life? To confirm his suspicions, he fires off two crucial questions. He asks for their ages. She is 20 and he is 19. The revelation hits Ethan like a physical blow. 19. That was the year the skies rained dragons. He wonders if the Great War is currently tearing the world apart. Panic rising, he demands a war update. Has their father already marched to the front lines to face the beasts? The war ended 15 years ago, she says, shattering his timeline. Their father did not just fight, he fell on the battlefield. Their family blood paid for a peace treaty with the dragons. Ethan can barely process the weight of her words. A pact with dragons, unthinkable. In his past life, such a truce was a fairy tale that never actually happened. Nothing adds up. The history he knew is warping. He begins to wonder if he has truly regressed through time. But this isn't just the past, it is a parallel one. A different timeline where history took a sharp, jagged turn. The verdict is clear. He survived death only to be thrown 13 years back into an alternate reality. This world is a stranger to him. Looking around the empty, cold room, he asks where the estate staff has gone. She hesitates, admitting the staff is long gone. The truth is bitter. They are too broke to hire even one servant. What about the Arden treasures, the jewels? As his questions mount, his sister's composure starts to crumble. She prepares to lay it all bare. This cramped, dusty shack isn't a temporary shelter. It is their official home now. Every luxury they once owned has vanished. This isn't the glorious, wealthy past Ethan remembers. It is a living nightmare. She eyes him with suspicion, questioning if he is lying. But Ethan doubles down on his grim, impossible truth. The realization finally sinks. In the House of Arden is bankrupt. A hollow, dry laugh escapes his lips in total disbelief. He has traveled back all right, straight into a timeline where his legendary family has already hit rock bottom. Is this some sick joke? His noble bloodline hasn't just fallen. It has been completely, utterly annihilated. Far in the west lies the Hidden Empire. Though small in size, it is home to a terrifyingly powerful legacy. House Arden's blade work is legendary across the globe. With that kind of fame, living in poverty should be impossible. They should be in a palace. Even at the height of the Dragon War, their manor never looked this pathetic. This rotting log cabin is a disgrace. Then she drops another bomb. They have been stuck here for over 10 years. Ethan is floored. The gap between his memories and this reality is becoming a massive, terrifying canyon. He died fighting dragons, only to wake up in a broken life. How did we lose everything? He roars in frustration. Their blood saved the kingdom. The king should have showered them in riches, not left them to starve in the woods. We were rewarded, she whispers. Ethan scoffs, demanding to know what prize landed them in this dump. The reward wasn't gold, it was total legal immunity. King Zegman himself bestowed a get-out-of-jail-free card. They were officially declared the protectors of the kingdom, promised the highest honor the crown could possibly offer. Even the king's name is different now. In this life, the monarch granted Ethan a terrifying level of authority. As the Arden heir, Ethan is untouchable. No crime, save for treason, can ever be pinned on his head. 3 generations of absolute immunity. Ethan lets the weight of that insane, godlike power sink into his soul. He could literally get away with murder. It is a legendary status, yet their pockets remain completely empty. Is that it? He snaps. She adds, they did get gold, but the main branch of the family snatched it all. Under the guise of safety, she reveals their branch was banished to this desolate hunting lodge. A decade ago, the Senate collateral relatives who now choke House Arden seized absolute control. Ethan's blood boils. Who are these senators to rule his family? His sister explains the nightmare. The Senate consists of 10 distant descendants installed to manage affairs after the Dragon War. After the war claimed their fathers, the king gave the Senate temporary rule, a total trap. King Sigmund grew paranoid, fearing a young Ethan might wield his absolute authority like a weapon. Ethan scoffs. This king is even more treacherous than the worthless monarch from his past life. Cursing the king's blindness, he demands to know what becomes of the patriarch's vacant throne. Once he hits 20, the Senate picks the heir. They already plotted against his comatose body. To those vultures, Ethan is a plague. His return threatens their stolen mountain of power. If he takes that throne, he'll execute every corrupt senator who dared torment his kin. 8 months. That's all the time he has until the final decision on his destiny. His sister collapses in tears, drowning in guilt. Ethan realizes his earlier fall was no accident. It was a mana rush, the price of chasing the family's vision. Back to 10 years ago. He was obsessed with reclaiming their legacy, pushing his mana far past the breaking point. The skill awakened, but the backlash left him comatose, leaving his siblings defenseless against wolves. They were crushed by the Senate's greed. Now he whispers that none of this is her fault. Stop crying. He carries the guilt, knowing she bore the world's weight while he slept. She gently raises his chin, her gaze softening, as she steers them toward a flicker of hope. His health is her only treasure. Ethan meets her eyes with a faint, dangerous smile. He finishes the meal and offers thanks, a small gesture that lights up her weary heart. Night falls. Left alone in his room, the gravity of his situation finally settles in. Chaos surrounds him. Yet this rebirth has granted one gift, a second chance with his sister. He recalls the king and the Senate systematically dismantling the pride of House Arden. Collateral branches were vultures gorging on the Duke's remains, while casting his true family aside. Why was he revived? Ethan doesn't know, but his knuckles turn white as he grips destiny. His path is clear. In 8 months, he will reclaim his peak and restore his family. Revenge is a promise. Dawn breaks over the cabin, their lonely prison in exile. Stew bubbles on the hearth. She smiles, knowing this warm meal is Ethan's absolute favorite. Time to wake him. But in the hall, the servants are slacking, their mockery echoing. Her eyes turn to ice as she confronts the Chamberlain leader of these insolent fools. He offers a fake smile, then drops a bombshell. She must leave the premises today. She protests, but he smirks. Their duty is to occupy this house like a conquering army. She pleads, but he sneers. I answer to Baron Kargas, not some fallen duke. He's ordered to occupy the lodge. Inside, he's already plotting how to make them suffer. A mock apology follows. Under their jeers, she has no choice but to swallow her pride. She knocks on Ethan's door with trembling hands. Together they descend to face the wolves. The servants wear smug grins, but Ethan's gaze is predatory as he scans the room. He spots the stew. I thought we were alone, he remarks, eyes narrowing at the intruders. They were forced on us, she whispers. The other houses sent these spies as helpers. Ethan scoffs at the lazy gossipers. If they're useless trash, why haven't we cleared them out? She sighs. If she fires them, more will come. They treat her orders like a joke. Eat first, Ethan says, standing up with a chilling smile. I need a word with them. Just a friendly chat in the parlor. Meanwhile, the Chamberlain lounges, feeling like a king. He chuckles. He thinks she was begging because the weakling heir finally woke up. He's vibing with his easy life. But he knows the truth. This cabin isn't a retreat. It's a gilded cage for the exiled. He figures his ties to the side family act as a protective shield. Even the Grand Duchess can't touch him easily. Smirking, he imagines getting paid just to yap and nap. Plus, selling secrets on the side is basically free money. The big T. The Archduke finally woke up after a 10-year coma. He snaps at a lackey to draft a message. Ethan's voice cuts through the air like a blade. Before he can even blink, Ethan's fist connects with his face. The impact sends him soaring. The Chamberlain hits the floor, a bloody, trembling mess paralyzed by pure, unadulterated fear. He sputters, demanding to know how Ethan dares touch him. Ethan just looms closer, radiating pure killing intent. Reality hits. This is the Archduke. Panic floods the Chamberlain as Ethan's cold, ruthless gaze pins him to the ground. Chaos erupts outside as shouts and crashing sounds echo. Ethan's voice booms, ordering everyone to clear out immediately. Bathed in a sinister red aura, Ethan stands tall. The pathetic Chamberlain whimpers, begging the monster to stay away. Staff look on in terror as Ethan stalks his prey. With zero effort, he hauls the Chamberlain up by his throat. He dangles helplessly, squealing about his noble blood. He tries to act tough, but his words are just pathetic whimpers. Ethan spits back the title Archduke, mocking the idea that rules apply to him. The Chamberlain's heart nearly stops. He sees death in Ethan's eyes. Choking, he gasps that Baron Kargas will make Ethan pay for this disrespect. Ethan scoffs at the mention of the Baron. He delivers another bone-shattering strike, leaving the man broken in the hallway. He warns the onlookers a low-tier Baron can't save them from the absolute fury of the Arden bloodline. Trembling, the man asks why Ethan simply looks down his silence, screaming that he already knows the answer. He's speechless. A flash of memory appears Ethan's sister, questioning if all this chaos was the Grand Duchess's doing. Snapping back to reality, the Chamberlain frantically commands the servants to run and protect the Grand Duchess at once. They bolt. Ethan drops the broken man like trash, then grabs him again, his voice sharp enough to draw blood. Terrified, the man squeaks a response. Ethan barks an order, play your part properly, or else. He quickly complies. They think he's lost his mind. But Ethan just walks away, leaving the old man shattered on the cold floor. Ethan clenches his fist. He felt it, a surge of monstrous power that only raw mana could provide. Battered and burning with rage, the Chamberlain swears to snitch. He'll tell Kargas and get his bloody revenge. Ethan realizes his physical frame is trashed. He only won that round by tapping into his stored mana reserves. Failure would have been a total disgrace. He seethes at those side-branch nobles for thinking they could disrespect House Arden. He envisions the Senate's heads on pikes. He'll show them all who the real master of this dukedom is. First things first, he needs a status check. He enters deep meditation to scan his physical limits and mana flow. The results are in. He mutters a dark confirmation as he visualizes the internal wreckage of his own body. Mana shards are scattered everywhere. That earlier surge left fragments stuck in his limbs like jagged glass. And joints. But wait, this mess could actually be a buff. He realizes this chaotic energy has hidden potential. This would have ended a normal night. But he was the continent's apex predator. He knows he can survive. He's got this. Honestly, for a 10-year nap, this body isn't half bad. It's got some decent foundations left. His channels are frail, but he'll rebuild. Step 1. Master the resonance technique to fix the damage. Resonance means syncing vibrations with mana. It lets him suck energy directly into his depleted mana holes. The energy gets pulled in, claiming the spot. Ethan focuses first on his wrist, the key to his swordsmanship. His sword hand needs strength. Mana spirals around his fingers as he begins the grueling grind of training. Intense energy cocoons him. Finally, he heads outside. It's time for some old-school physical conditioning. Morning was for mana. Now, it's all about building that raw stamina. No shortcuts to being the best. He pushes hard, picking grit over fancy moves. The day blurs as he sweats and grinds through exercises. Sunset hits, and he's still at it, testing his weak frame. The watching servants can only whisper in awe. They murmur about how stone-cold he is. Watching him shadowbox, they're low-key impressed by his terrifying work ethic. He looks frail, but a frantic guard ruins the moment, screaming for the Grand Duchess and catching Ethan's eye. Ethan intercepts him, demanding answers. The guard blurts out that young Master Myers is stirring up big trouble. Apparently, he's causing a scene at a bar. Only the Duchess can handle him. Wait, who is this guy? Ethan's world tilts when Myers is linked to a drunken brawl. He vividly recalls a gala where Myers wouldn't touch alcohol. Back then, Myers was a fitness fanatic fueled by protein and milk, outshining all his siblings in raw strength. Ethan can't wrap his head around it. How did his most disciplined brother devolve into a common barroom brawler? He barks orders at Hans to prep for departure immediately. Their destination, the notorious Golden Pub. Outside the tavern, Ethan hears the ugly truth. The young Duke has been trashing the place alongside low-life thugs. No way, Ethan mutters, refusing to believe his hard-working brother has fallen so low. He pushes through the doors. He barely enters before a chair hurtles past his head. The entire tavern is a hurricane of pure violent chaos. At the center of the storm stands a wasted Myers, screaming for more booze and terrorizing every soul inside. Ethan freezes as he recognizes the aggressive drunk. Seeing his beloved brother reduced to this wreck shatters his heart. What kind of trauma could break such a kind soul? Ethan stands in the shadows, absorbing the devastating sight. The thugs around Myers just cackle, egging him on. They mockingly cheer for their energetic Duke to keep going. Ethan's blood begins to boil. He storms past the crowd, his presence radiating a dark, suffocating pressure. With a surge of mana, Ethan slams his fist down. The thunderous impact silences the entire room instantly. His eyes ignite with fury. A memory flashes back Myers, a legendary hero slicing through monsters like a god of war. In that nightmare, Myers had screamed for Ethan to escape, choosing to hold off the entire horde alone. Back in reality, the wasted Myers blinks, his vision blurred. He wonders if he's finally started seeing ghosts. Ethan, he slurs, swaying on his feet. He's convinced this must be a hallucination brought on by the alcohol. Ethan is paralyzed by the contrast. Before him stood a stoic warrior, now there's only a broken shadow. This hero now brags like a child, claiming he's the undisputed king of drinking on the whole continent. Sorrow and rage collide in Ethan's chest. In one swift motion, he strikes a pressure point, knocking Myers cold. "We'll talk later," Ethan whispers to his brother. Then he turns a murderous gaze toward the thugs. Hans bursts in, pointing a trembling finger at the lowlifes. He accuses them of poisoning the young lord's mind. Ethan's silhouette flickers with raw dark energy. One thug pales, realizing this is the legendary Archduke himself. They recall his mana rush from 10 years ago, but Ethan's terrifying aura tells them they are completely outclassed. Sensing certain death, the thugs try to retreat. Their leader fakes a smile, claiming they were just worried. "You think you can just leave?" Ethan's voice is sub-zero. A wave of pure dread washes over the leader. The thug's instincts scream danger. He knows one wrong move will be his last as Ethan closes the distance. "Who gave you permission to move?" Ethan demands. A thug steps forward, masking his fear with fake concern. He blocks Ethan's path mockingly, sneering that the sickly Duke should back off before he gets hurt. Big mistake. Ethan's fist glows with lethal blue mana as he winds up for a devastating execution. Boom. The thug is blasted into the wall, leaving a smoking crater where he used to be standing. The red-haired leader stares in total disbelief. This level of power wasn't supposed to be possible for a cripple. "You dared to lay a hand on my family," Ethan growls. "You have no idea how massive your mistake was." Shrouded in an ominous aura, Ethan blurs forward. The red-haired thug's heart nearly stops as death approaches. "Wait," he shrieks. He can't fathom this power wasn't Ethan's mana core supposed to be shattered. Desperate, the thug steals his nerves. He bets everything on a counterattack, hoping to catch Ethan off guard. Steel meets mana in a high-speed clash. But the thug's confidence shatters as Ethan's power completely overwhelms him. Seeing their leader get dismantled, the other thugs lose their minds. They scream in terror, scrambling for the exits. Ethan watches them flee, a cold vow in his heart. No one harms the Arden family and survives. Elsewhere, the echoes of brutality fill the air. Another servant trembles, imagining the carnage Ethan is unleashing. Despite being splattered with blood, Ethan looks terrifyingly composed amidst a sea of broken, unconscious bodies. Monster, the lone survivor, whimpers. Nearby, the older butler frantically calls out for Hans to take control. "Take him home," Ethan commands, pointing to Myers. He leaves Hans to clean up the bloody aftermath. The tragedy runs deep. After their father fell in battle, their mother followed soon after, leaving them alone. Being the eldest, Ethan had to grow up fast. He barely remembers his parents' faces, only the weight of duty. During those desolate years, a gentle hand brushed the sobbing boy's hair. Ethan wasn't just a brother, he was a pillar of strength. He shielded his sibling from the world, gradually transforming into a paternal beacon in the young boy's eyes. Myers snaps awake, his voice cracking as he screams for his brother. Through ragged breaths, memories of last night's drunken haze surface. A vision of Ethan had appeared, but he dismisses it as a cruel hallucination. Overwhelmed by weakness, he curses his own helplessness. Tears blur his vision as he sobs an apology. Suddenly, Ethan swings the door open, drawn by Myers' frantic cries. Myers recoils in shock. With trembling lips and watery eyes, he whispers, "Is it really you? Are you actually here?" A soft smile touches Ethan's face as he confirms his return. Without a second thought, Myers bolts from his bed. He crashes into Ethan with a crushing hug, his shouts echoing through the room. Ethan, struggling for air, chuckles at the familiar chaos. He realizes his little brother is still the same emotional klutz. "You're suffocating me, and you smell like a brewery," Ethan groans. Myers frantically vows to quit drinking forever. Ethan just laughs, suggesting one last toast to celebrate their long-awaited reunion. Myers beams at the idea, but a shadow crosses his face. "Wait, where is Taryn? Where's our brother?" Ethan explains their sister's tight-lipped silence, suspecting a cover-up. Myers shifts awkwardly, a look of deep shame clouding his features. Taryn abandoned them for another clan obsessed with mastering a foreign style. He had basically turned his back on their bloodline. With their elders dead and Ethan in a coma, Taryn believed their sacred breathing art had vanished forever. The news hits Ethan like a physical blow. He demands answers, but Myers can only hang his head in ignorance. Which family did he join? Ethan presses just as a nervous servant's voice interrupts, addressing him with formal reverence. Swallowing his irritation, Ethan grants entry. Hans steps inside, his eyes widening as he realizes the Archduke is finally awake. "Speak," Ethan commands bluntly. Hans bows low, extending a heavy, jingling leather pouch that smells unmistakably like cold, hard cash. It's the loot from last night's skirmish. Ethan's eyes gleam. Their empty treasury desperately needed this sudden injection of gold. Impressed by Hans's quick thinking, Ethan tosses him the surplus. "Keep the change as a bonus," he declares. Hans practically beams, stuttering out his gratitude, while insisting he was merely performing his humble duty. Ethan watches him closely. This Chamberlain has potential. But his thoughts drift back to Taryn. Did his brother flee because the family's fall was too much? Relief mixes with resolve. If the Arden name is to survive, Ethan must rebuild this shattered dynasty from the ashes. Step 1. Mold Myers into a weapon. He forces his brother down and demands to see his wrist, sparking pure confusion. Using his mana perception, Ethan prepares to scan the damage years of heavy drinking have inflicted on Myers' internal circuits. Sludge clogs Myers' energy pathways. His mana is dangerously generic, a clear sign the boy was never properly initiated. The legendary Arden arts are completely absent from his core. Had he mastered the breathing technique, his energy would be scorching. Instead of a roaring furnace, it's a flickering spark. Yet the latent potential reminds Ethan of the warrior Myers once was. "You've got a solid foundation," Ethan remarks, finishing the scan. The unexpected praise lights a fire in Myers' eyes. With the right hell training, knighthood isn't just a dream, but given his condition, he'll have to pick a specialized path. Absolute attack or impenetrable defense, choose one. Myers' jaw drops. "A real knight, you're serious." Ethan's nod is razor sharp. "I hold the lost secrets of our house," Ethan reveals. "I will make you a legend." For Myers, it's a miracle. Shaking off his shock, Myers finds his resolve. "If I have to choose, then make me a shield. I'll focus on defense. I'll be the wall that protects you and our family," Ethan smirks, warning him that defensive mastery requires surviving absolute hell. "Are you ready to bleed?" Ethan asks. Myers doesn't flinch. Immediately, Ethan barks orders for Hans to fetch training equipment. Sandbags and wooden blades, the tools of a rebirth. Hans scurries off as Ethan contemplates the burden of the Arden legacy. The lost arts live within Ethan now. 15 is old to start, but Myers' raw potential is far from wasted. A new era of training begins. Meanwhile, at the Karga estate, the cunning patriarch Helmut Karga receives a game-changing report. The Archduke is awake after a decade-long slumber. Interesting. Helmut quickly pens a secret missive, dispatching a writer immediately. The target, Count Fern. Helmut knows Ethan is more than just a survivor. He's a physical powerhouse with terrifying talent. Those eyes. They're the spitting image of his father's. It's time to rally the branch families and announce the Arden return. Back at the estate, Ethan's wooden sword blurs. He's teaching Myers the fundamental art of becoming one with the blade. The sparring is brutal. Ethan pushes Myers to weave individual blocks into a seamless, unbreakable wall of defensive steel. Don't just swing. Combat is a river, an endless flow. Ethan roars, his strikes raining down like thunder. Myers is getting demolished. As he struggles to stay upright, Ethan reveals the essence of their secret power. A single block is nothing. The onslaught continues. Ethan commands Myers to rise, barking that real killers never wait. He mocks the boy's conviction, questioning if his will is actually made of glass. Adrenaline surges through Myers as he denies any weakness, his knuckles whitening around the hilt once more. Screaming that it's not over, he lunges forward, determined to halt Ethan's blade at any cost. A predatory smirk crosses Ethan's face. Their wooden blades collide with a bone-jarring crack, shattering into splinters. From the shadows, Hans watches in horror. He can't believe Ethan is ruthlessly battering his own brother. He wonders if these brutal beatings are just the Duke's love language, and resolves to stay safe. Navigating Ethan's temper is vital, especially given the dark history involving the Grand Duchess. The Grand Duchess feels lost in the whirlwind of change Ethan brought since his sudden return. Staring out the window, she ponders the shifting tides within the manor's walls. The lazy servants only snap to attention once Ethan awakened. She summons the Chamberlain immediately. Hans jumps startled. She demands to know what magic words Ethan used to light a fire under them. Remembering the terrifying threats, Hans trembles. To him, it wasn't a conversation, it was a pure nightmare. Seeing her concern, Hans pivots frantically, claiming he's only there to deliver warm, fresh cookies. He suggests an elegant tea party under the sun, and she accepts with a weary smile. Nibbling on a treat, she senses his evasion. Clearly, some truths are just too heavy to share. That night, Hans nervously handles a priceless magic stone, preparing to activate a secret communication orb. A whole month's pay gone in a flash. He slides the gem in, and the device hums. Baron Helmut's face flickers into view. He's been dying for a report on the estate's current chaos. Hans confirms the Archduke has risen and is manifesting mana. Helmut's eyes gleam with satisfaction. A decade hasn't dulled Ethan's monstrous talent. Hans is ordered to keep spying as the summit nears. Hans hesitates, whining about Ethan's recent violence, and hinting that his hazard pay needs a massive boost. Helmut brushes it off, promising secret funds. The upcoming meeting is already rigged in their favor. Grinning at the bribe, Hans bows out. The Baron ends the call, locking in the next debrief. Alone, Hans's gears turn. This isn't just a job, it's a golden ticket he has to seize. He realizes the Baron is sleeping on Ethan's true power. Hans decides to play both sides. If Ethan crushes his enemies, staying in his shadow will be insanely lucrative. He chooses profit. A servant bursts in, the training is finished. Hans barks orders for ice, water, towels, and tea. It's time for the brothers' break. His number one rule: do not annoy the Archduke at any cost. The sun sets in gold. Hans's new golden rule: do not annoy the Archduke at any cost. During their next bout, Ethan unleashes a devastating strike that nearly shatters Myers' stance. Clutching his smoking blade, Myers bellows his battle cry. Ethan watches, a spark of respect in his eyes. He's actually doing well, just days into this hellish regime, and the boy is already reading movements. Ethan's heel slams the dirt, the signal for another crushing strike. Again, he roars, reigniting the storm. Myers braced for impact. Their clash ripples through the air, shockwaves tearing through the tranquil forest. Suddenly, the forest goes still. Ethan freezes mid-swing, his eyes narrowing as he senses something strange. Myers stands paralyzed, his sword still steaming from the sheer friction. He's totally speechless. "I did it," he screams, ego exploding. "Look at me, I'm practically a pro now." In a hilarious chibi puff, Ethan scoffs. "Calm down, kid. You blocked exactly one basic swing." He warns the boy that victory is when you're most vulnerable. Dropping your guard is a death sentence. Still, Ethan is floored by Myers' raw stamina and grit. This kid is built different. He might rival a knight soon. Nearby, Hans is practically swooning over Ethan's legendary teaching skills. During their breather, Hans becomes a one-man pit crew, smothering Ethan with towels and sugary praise. Ethan smells a rat. Why the brown-nosing later Hans finally cracks, admitting he has a secret. He reveals Baron Karga reached out. Ethan demands the details, forcing the nervous butler to spill. The Baron sent a spy, but Hans dramatically pledges total loyalty as Ethan's new personal chamberlain. He brags about outsmarting the Baron. Ethan smells a scam, but Hans grinningly confesses his clever ruse. He swindled the Baron for pure cash. Ethan smirks, needing those funds anyway, and gives a new order. He grants Hans full access to the stolen loot before demanding stationery to draft his secret blueprints. Ethan sees Hans playing both sides, but he'll gladly weaponize that greed for his own grand design. Fools make the best puppets. Handing over the list, Ethan sends his new lackey straight to town. Custom gear is a priority. Seeing sketches for lethal weaponry and training tools, Hans eagerly accepts the task. Ethan lets Hans pocket the leftovers from the Baron's stash, instantly securing the man's greedy devotion. Fired up by greed, Hans shrieks his loyalty and bolts, leaving Ethan and Myers staring in disbelief. Ethan questions Myers on their clan's hidden legacy. Myers admits he's completely clueless about their secret arts. Not even their siblings know. Baffled, Myers asks how Ethan found out. Ethan cryptically mentions their father. It is time for live combat. Ethan declares they'll use the new gear to master true lethality. Myers is the key to Arden's glory. First step, forging the youngest son into a legendary knight. Their path is unique and brutal. Ethan asks if Myers is ready for a fundamental power shift. He must purge every drop of his current mana. Stunned, Myers stammers, unable to believe the cost. Pushing past the shock, Myers grins. For his family and his brother, he'll sacrifice it all. Elsewhere, a frantic messenger sprints through the halls. He hammers on a door, screaming about an emergency. He calls for Sir Wilden, gasping that the youngest lord just launched a full-scale assault on their base. Chaos is erupting. A massive, scarred warrior sits up, questioning his own ears at such an absurd report. The Red Scorpion leader growls. Why is the boy wrecking their HQ after acting so timid yesterday? Rewind 48 hours. Under the moonlight at the hunting lodge, Ethan begins Myers' grueling transformation. A new technique awaits. Ethan reveals the Arden secret, the devastating power of the primordial black flame. The breath of black flame. To Myers, this power is the ultimate symbol of his noble bloodline. He wonders if 4 brutal stages of training will truly evolve his mana into this legendary obsidian fire. To be a real Arden, that flame must burn within him. There is no other way. First, he must purge his entire mana core. Ethan commands him to let every drop drain away. Now fill the void with fire. He must ignite the core while flushing out every last impurity. Ethan directs the flow. The air around Myers begins to ripple as a scorching heat takes hold. It is pure, unadulterated fire. As dawn breaks, the night-long ordeal finally concludes in the golden light. Myers' eyes snap open. A ferocious new energy surges through him, signaling his rebirth of power. Ethan nods. Once this fire truly settles, Myers will possess a strength that defies all common logic. 2 months until the resident stage is mastered. But first, Ethan has a special field trip in mind. Myers follows blindly, baffled by their destination. Meanwhile, a shadowy subordinate reports to his royal master. They have arrived, Your Highness. Ethan and his crew pull up to the Red Scorpion gang's den. Payback starts now. Hans warns that the gang's eldest member wields dangerous combat-ready mana. Ethan doesn't care. He unleashes Myers instead. The younger brother prepares to ignite his new breathing technique. Boom. The door flies open. Myers charges in like a demon, roaring a promise of absolute destruction. Stunned thugs wonder what got into the weakling lord. Myers bellows that their debt is finally due. For shaming the Arden name, they must burn. The leader whines about their supposed brotherly friendship. Is this a joke? Myers sneers. Does a strike like this look like a damn prank to you? He answers with a brutal shield bash. The impact sends the thug hurtling across the room. Panic turns to rage as blades are drawn. The mob shrieks, swarming Myers in a desperate frenzy. Outside, Hans is shaking, but Ethan remains stone cold. He watches as Myers finally tests his newfound might. Myers is powerful now, but his spirit is still fragile. His past sins are anchoring his potential. That guilt kills his confidence. As Myers fends off the horde, Ethan reveals why this test was necessary. Despite the lethality, Myers seeks redemption to finally silence his screaming conscience. Suddenly, Wilden lunges with a jagged blade, swearing a blood oath. Myers deflects the strike with his steel, but the edge bites deep. Bloodied Myers endures the agony. Ethan watches, approving of this tactical sacrifice to maintain a lethal position. Seeing his opening, Myers explodes into action, smashing his heavy shield into the man's jaw. Ethan notes that dodging would have invited total exposure. Ethan turns to Hans for his take. Hans stands paralyzed by Ethan's icy robotic calculation. To Hans, Ethan is terrifying, remaining completely detached even as his own brother bleeds. Still, he cannot deny Ethan's god-tier skill. Suddenly, a booming command halts the carnage. The Red Scorpion leader glares at Myers, demanding answers for this chaos while hinting at a massacre. Ethan steps forward, his expression like stone. The leader freezes, recognizing the face of a true monster. He remembers his mangled subordinate describing the Archduke as a demon. He accuses Ethan of the assault. Ethan just stares back coldly, daring him to act. The leader's blood boils with murderous intent, but he bites his tongue, needing Baron Kargas's orders first. Instead, he plays the diplomat, suggesting they bury the hatchet here to protect the Duke's name despite his own men's injuries. Ethan lets out a savage smirk. The audacity of this trash pretending to be generous is laughable. He tells Myers these villains are nothing but irredeemable garbage that needs to be taken out. The only solution, crippling them all. Turning his gaze to the Red Scorpion leader, Ethan promises to make an example out of him. The leader warns that he will intervene personally. Ethan dares him to try, as fiery mana erupts from his palms, warping the very air. The leader senses the legendary Ardent Flame mana, a power rumored to burn everything to ash. He shakes off the fear, convinced the rumors are just cap. He trusts his own red aura. Wildon surges with blue mana, boasting that Ethan's tricks won't work on a warrior like him. Ethan's eyes light up with amusement. Wildon charges, his fist glowing with massive, unstable energy. "Don't regret this," Wildon roars. But Ethan slips inside his guard, his own fist blazing. "Regret? You're the only fool here," Ethan scoffs, launching a devastating fire-imbued punch. The impact is absolute. Wildon is sent flying, his body scorched as blood sprays the dirt. As Wildon groans in the dust, Ethan looms over him, his fists still glowing with heat. "Who gave you our family's secret arts?" Ethan demands. Wildon's entire body begins to tremble. When he hesitates, Ethan threatens a slow, agonizing torture. Terrified, Wildon screams out Baron Kargas's name. The revelation hits Ethan like a bolt. A memory flashes Kargas hiring Wildon to cripple the heir. The plan had to be subtle, no drugs, no tracks. Just a slow 3-year decline into uselessness. Kargas didn't care about time-only results. He reminded Wildon exactly what he was being paid for. He handed over a payment that left Wildon speechless. Wildon unrolled the scroll, stunned by its value. Kargas revealed it was the Duke's secret breathing technique stolen right from the family vault. He promised even more power once the job was done. Wildon knew the scroll was genuine. Overjoyed to possess the ardent secrets, Wildon swore he'd get the job done. Kargas smirked, saying he'd have plenty of work for a loyal dog. Wildon pledged his life to him. Back in the present, Ethan watches this memory inside a green sphere, noting the fake loyalty. It seems Wildon didn't trust Kargas either, since he kept this memory as insurance. Hans reports the gang is wiped out and the stolen gold has been fully recovered. They ask if they should bring the leader in, but Ethan says the sphere is enough. Kargas is a snake, a relative who stole secrets and plotted to assassinate the direct bloodline. With his list of crimes, including drugs and murder, Ethan finally has the leverage he needs. But he holds back. Now isn't the time to strike. Kargas is still too dangerous to face. Kargas only sent his weakest pawn. Ethan knows he needs more power before taking on the elite. Ethan aims to harvest the resonance mana, embedding lethal fire seeds deep within his own flesh. Beginning with his wrists, he maps out every vital node, aiming for the ultimate prize, his heart. To master this blaze, Ethan vows that once his cultivation peaks, Baron Kargas will be the first to fall. After ordering Hans to stash the memory sphere, Ethan grants him the looted gold. Hans is hyped over the massive payday. But there is a catch. Ethan drops a chilling warning: if Hans wants to keep breathing, he will erase those memories forever. Terrified, Hans goes quiet as Ethan nonchalantly pivots, asking for more intel on that day's chaos. At his estate, Baron Kargas absolutely loses it over the Archduke's blatant meddling. He fumes as Ethan severs his shadow funds, cursing the brat's untouchable legal status, despite his decade of sickness. Murder crosses his mind, but doing the deed on home turf would leave way too much blood on his hands. It is too risky. Kargas decides to play the long game, eyeing the elders' meeting 2 months out to strike. Suddenly, a messenger brings word from Hans. Kargas rips the letter away, his patience wearing dangerously thin. He scans Ethan's demands and hits the roof, screaming about the insane price tag, 100 gold pieces. He slams the desk, venting a storm of curses before finally growling that they have no choice but to pay. He sends the funds but orders a side-eye on Hans to ensure no backstabbing. Fast forward 3 days. Crews are swarming the Arden hunting estate, rebuilding the place from the ground up. Post-meditation, Ethan checks his glowing arms. He is already halfway through, igniting his internal mana network. Hans checks in, and a fully dressed Ethan steps out. The butler greets him with total respect. He is told Myers and his sister are already at the table. Ethan makes his way down the grand staircase. Looking sharp for brunch, he hits the floor and notes the repairs are almost wrapped up. Hans explains the Red Scorpion loot was massive, allowing for some serious upgrades to the manor's flex. Ethan shrugs, calling it blood money, and tells the crew to keep a fat stack for their loyalty. Entering the room, Ethan stops and genuinely praises his sister's stunning new look. She beams, giving Hans all the credit. Ethan realizes his butler is actually a top-tier asset. The vibe is finally regal. Ethan promises his sister she will only experience the absolute best from now on. Over food, Ethan checks Myers' recovery. Myers chirps that the healer has him back to 100% by next week. Ethan mulls over the timing, his brain clearly spinning new schemes before flashing a satisfied smirk. Confusing, his sister Ethan asks if they remember the ancient family rite, once held at this very manor. He realizes this timeline erased the ritual. Turning to Hans, he drops the news of their next move. They are heading into the Pushkas Mountains. As Hans scrambles to pack, Ethan halts him with a caveat. Just the core 4, Ethan, his sister, Myers, and Hans. The butler's face drops in pure hilarious shock. 7 days later, they are deep in the peaks. Hans looks like he has seen a literal ghost. It has been a week of straight trauma, starting with massive spider monsters jumping them on night 1. He thought it was game over, realizing Ethan is the only reason his soul is still attached to his body. Memories flash of Ethan nuking monsters with god-tier strength, which honestly scares the crew even more. Hans grumbles as he recalls Myers recklessly diving into danger, all while Ethan cheers on the insanity. Ethan prefers monster slaying over safe sparring. In the present, Hans is literally crying over the stress. He swears never to return to this nightmare. Finally, they reach the spot and Myers asks if they are there. Ethan nods, pointing at the Temple of Fire before heaving the massive stone doors wide open. He explains their ancestors found this relic originally using its sacred halls for the final rest. It is the source of the fire spirits' favor, a rite of passage for every young Arden heir. Once they turn 10, they bond with the spirits, pumping pure solar energy into their veins. This trial makes them fireproof, unlocking the lineage's power to truly command the flames. Hans is shaking, asking if he is even allowed to join such a mystical, creepy-looking ritual. Ethan okays it, secretly testing where Hans's loyalty truly lies, under the pressure of destiny. Approaching the ancient altar, Ethan explains the spot's significance, claiming the ritual itself is actually quite basic. Offerings and ritual dances must begin the moment sparks fly to lure the spirit's favor. The kids just need to go all out, make it big, make it flashy. That's how you summon the blessing. Myers and Ethan's sister are stunned, but Ethan realizes something deeper. Even though history shifted 15 years back, the ancient lore still aligns with his past life. For centuries, the Arden bloodline has been bound to fire spirits. He wonders if that sacred pact still holds in this twisted timeline. If the deal is dead, they lose everything. But there's only one way to find out: start the rite. As the heirs of Arden, they begin the sacred dance, offering their tribute to the flames. Right on cue, the spirit explodes from the altar. The gate to the fire realm has finally swung open. Spirits pour out. Ifrit, a mid-rank powerhouse, acknowledges Myers, a testament to his insane fire affinity. A lowly salamander appears for Ethan's sister, marking a weaker connection. But then the spirits sense something terrifying. They freeze in shock. Ethan remembers his past life when he stood as the absolute monarch of the Inferno. Ethan's voice rings out, "Who among you will bless me?" Suddenly, the spirits tremble before a king. A massive fire monarch emerges, praising the Arden bloodline while demanding total submission. Its voice is pure heat. "Did you summon me, boy?" Ethan doesn't flinch. He demands a direct blessing from the monarch himself. Ethan is pulled into a realm of pure fire. Before he can even process it, a hellish vortex swirls. He's stunned. The monarch explains, "This is Ethan's soul, a world where the essence of fire runs wild. Meet Roshia, the fire monarch." She mocks Ethan's audacity, calling him a brat for trying to master her vessel. He sweats, wondering if he's busted. But he pivots, proposing a deal: her raw power, his absolute control. Roshia finds him hilarious. She sets a challenge: if he can tame even a spark of her flame, she'll give him everything. The ultimate blessing is on the line. "Show me your talent." Ethan doesn't hesitate. He dives straight in. Back in the real world, the tension is suffocating. Ethan hasn't moved a muscle, frozen like a statue. He's been trapped in a pillar of flame for over an hour. Myers can feel it. Something monumental is happening inside. Myers keeps the faith. He knows Ethan will crush this trial. Deep within his soul, Ethan centers himself. He reaches for his past god-tier mastery, calling upon the forbidden art, the breath of black fire. Ethan reaches out, letting the searing heat surge through his veins. That old familiar power begins to wake up. He crushes the flames into his palm. Test complete, he smirks. Even Roshia is floored by his sheer willpower. A mere mortal controlling her flame. Impossible. She bursts into laughter. This human is definitely built different. Roshia keeps her word. She hands over her power, giving him total authority to wield her flames. Ethan doesn't waste time. He uses the blessing to purge his veins. Suddenly, a wave of liquid fire consumes him. He screams as the heat tears through him. Wrapped in a blinding aura, his body undergoes a brutal, painful evolution. Myers shouts in panic, but Ethan steps out of the inferno, stronger, faster, and completely untouched. "Happy now?" Roshia asks. Ethan has one more request: bless his friends too. To his surprise, she agrees. A monarch's blessing is a legendary honor. Within seconds, Myers and the sister are swallowed by the fire. As the ritual peaks, Roshia whispers a goodbye. This isn't the end. They'll cross paths again soon. She vanishes, leaving behind a promise to the child of fire. Ethan realizes this meeting was no accident. Destiny is playing favorites. His body is completely rebuilt, with 90% of his veins now crystal clear. He's attained a god-tier physique. Now he just needs to guide Myers and his sister through their own refinement. While Ethan masters the heat, Hans watches in absolute awe. A literal spirit monarch just appeared before his eyes. The reality hits Hans like a truck. He finally understands why Ethan brought him here. It's time to pick a side. The choice is clear. He's going all in. Ethan snaps him out of it, calling over to a dazed Myers. Myers stares at his hands, feeling the raw power buzzing in his skin. His sister feels it too. They're different now. The blessing didn't just give them power. It remapped their entire biology, bones, muscles, and mana circuits. Ethan smirks. A direct blessing from a monarch is a massive cheat code even by his standards. He thanks his past life luck. But the high wears off fast when Myers and the sister realize they're absolutely famished. Is it normal to be this hungry? Ethan laughs, evolving is hard work. Let's go grab some real food, he suggests. After a feast at the Hidden Lodge, Myers finally taps out, feeling stuffed. He's totally vibing with this tranquil rest area. Hans beams with pride over his cooking, but as they trek through the woods, Myers asks where Ethan's heading next. Ethan clicks a concealed floor plate, a smirk playing on his lips. Found it, he whispers, instantly grabbing their attention. He teases a mind-blowing revelation. The trio pries open a hidden hatch, jaws dropping as they descend into a vault of treasures. This is the mother lode. Deep inside, a pulsating magic circle radiates light, locking away the chamber's final secret. It's high-tier preservation magic fueled by pure mana. Ethan checks the loot. Everything inside is in peak condition. Hans gasps at a specific hide, eyes nearly popping. Ethan demands answers. That's legendary peacock leather, Hans stammers in shock. It's a capital-tier rarity. Ethan calculates the haul's worth, and Hans predicts a payday of at least 30 platinum coins. Myers loses his mind over the riches, but Ethan checks him. This massive bankroll is exactly what his master plan needs. Hans's sharp eyes impress Ethan. Turns out he was raised in the merchant world, traveling the globe with his father. Those roots led him here. Recognizing Hans's depth, Ethan tasks him with finding a top-tier buyer who won't lowball them. Only the highest bidders allowed. He commands the duo to clear out the loot as they prep for departure. Back at Arden Estate, Hans requests an audience. Ethan is now dripped out in noble regalia, looking like a true heir. Ethan waves him in while scanning papers. Hans delivers the news: a massive merchant syndicate is ready to talk business. The name Mysis makes Ethan freeze. He knows them. Hans adds that they're legendary for being incredibly clever and resourceful. Hans senses tension, but Ethan shifts gears instantly. Let's meet them. His sudden hype leaves Hans completely baffled and confused. The VIP arrives with a slight delay. Ethan plays it cool with a polite greeting, and the guest returns the respect. Michelin of Mysis, the man claims. Ethan cuts through the act, demanding his real name. No trust, no deal, period. Michelin flinches. How does he know? Ethan casually exposes the Bessemer family's secret tradition of hiding their heirs in plain sight. Years of living undercover exposed. Ethan even calls out his hyper-realistic mask and the hidden knight guarding him. His poker face shatters. Internal sirens blare. Michelin thought his disguise was foolproof and his secret safe. He even warped his voice to fool royalty. Ethan just watches, secretly amused by the man's sheer terror. Ethan's secret. He learned this from the man himself in a past life. Stunned, Michelin finally bows to Ethan's genius. I am Jeron Bezos, he confesses. Ethan greets the true heir by title, ready to dive into the real deal. Jeron doubts this loot can change his fate, but Ethan has a much bigger play in mind. Interested in the forbidden art of potion brewing, Ethan asks. Jeron nearly jumps. That's a highly classified ancient discipline. Jeron demands answers. Ethan lies smoothly about finding the scrolls by luck, recalling his brutal memories of the past timeline. The Wyverian War leaked those secrets, leaving only Ethan and the creator as the sole masters of the craft. With the ultimate recipes in hand, he remembers when the Bessemers sacrificed their entire fortune to back Arden. They've proven their loyalty before. Now Ethan waits to see if Jeron has the guts to do it again. This is a high-stakes recruitment. Jeron figures if Ethan could see through his mask, he's definitely not bluffing. No lies here. Ethan reveals his choice. The Bezos family gave everything 15 years ago to save Arden. They bled for the war, while cowards got rich. Ethan despises how the true heroes fell, while the snakes prospered. Snakes don't get secrets. Ethan reveals his endgame, a total purge of every traitor infecting the kingdom's shadows. 7 months remain to seize control. He needs the Marquis's steel to crush the 10 rival branches, blocking his path. He's taking on the 7 great families, the greedy vultures trying to steal Arden's legendary guardian title. They're already circling like sharks. Jeron realizes that joining Ethan means declaring war on the entire kingdom's elite power. Fighting the king and 17 noble houses, Ethan gets the fear, but the reward is worth the risk. The deal is fire. To prove it, Ethan slices his palm open, sending the room into a total panic. Relax, it's a demo. He splashes a crimson vial over the cut. It heals instantly, matching any high-tier potion. But here's the kicker, it costs 10% of the usual price. Jeron's jaw hits the floor at those margins. Precision is key. Ethan smirks, revealing he has a whole library of even deadlier recipes stashed away. Join me, and there's more. He offers the entire treasure hoard for free, as a massive sign of faith. A total freebie for a lifetime alliance. Jeron looks at his crumbling legacy and sees his only lifeline. He can't save his house solo. Instead of letting his name rot, he'll gamble everything to reclaim their glory. Jeron roars his consent to a soul-binding pact tethering his entire lineage to the Arden house. Hans delivers a 3-day briefing to Ethan at the manor. The intel reveals widespread betrayal among vassals led by Baron Kargas. Their contracts are being shredded. Hans explains how Kargas ballooned his army and weaponized the Red Scorpion Syndicate. He's extorting locals with predatory taxes labeled as protection fees. Ethan realizes Kargas is literally draining the territory's lifeblood. After the abuse he and his siblings endured, Ethan realizes the other 9 families are likely just as trash. He demands to know who collects taxes in Lower Town. Hans identifies Heims, a low-tier noble, and Kargas's loyal lackey. Hans notes that James is currently in Barros, busy squeezing the villagers for every last coin. Ethan commands an immediate departure for Barros. He pauses to reflect on his evolving strategy. Toppling Kargas was originally a 4-month plan, but after gaining the Fire Monarch's power, that pace is way too slow. Fueled by raw power, Ethan swears to wreck Kargas soon. His first move, obliterating Heims. Heims struts into Barros with his squad acting like he owns the place while demanding the chief hand over the gold. The elderly chief pleads that they tried, but the quota is impossible. Heims explodes in a fit of greedy rage. He steals credit for crushing the Red Scorpions while insulting the old man. The chief internally seethes at the blatant lie. Knowing the Archduke was the real hero, the chief begs for mercy. Heims responds with a brutal backhand. He sneers that he'll take the chief's daughter as a late fee and a warning. As the father weeps, Hans points out their target. Ethan emerges from the shadows with killing intent, calling Heims absolute bottom-tier trash. Heims spots Hans, but the terrifying aura radiating from the stranger beside him makes his skin crawl. Panic sets in. Terrified Heims screams for his personal guard, Knight Deacon, to eliminate the threat. Deacon feels the oppressive heat of Ethan's mana. He barks threats of execution for interfering with the Baron's law. Despite his big talk, Deacon is shaking. Ethan laughs off the justice as mere banditry and unsheathes his massive blade. Infuriated by Ethan's calm confidence, Deacon lunges forward, swearing to end his life. Ethan simply replies, "You're the one dying." In a flash of crimson lightning, he blitzes toward the knight. Deacon tracks the linear strike and prepares a parry. He pours mana into his blade, ready to counterattack instantly. He's certain of his defense. Suddenly, Ethan shifts the blade's trajectory, mid-swing, catching Deacon completely off guard. The feint shatters Deacon's defense. He realizes too late that Ethan manipulated his strike mid-air. The impact hammers Deacon into the dirt like a rag doll. A shockwave of debris explodes from the crash site. The raw power is staggering. Ethan stands tall through the dust, his greatsword vibrating with lethal energy. The guards are paralyzed. A high-ranking knight just got one-shotted, and absolute terror begins to spread through their ranks. They realize they're outclassed. That's when the butler reveals the truth. This youth is the Archduke of Arden himself. He commands their total surrender. The realization hits the soldiers they're facing, the legendary hero of the Arden bloodline, the man who wiped out the Scorpions. Weapons hit the floor instantly as every soldier bows in submission. Ethan commends their survival instinct, then turns his cold gaze to Heims, warning him to learn his place. Shaking with fear, Heims agrees to a chat at the manor. Ethan mocks the corrupt officer's lavish lifestyle. "Your house is nicer than mine," Ethan notes icily. Terrified, Heims spills everything, blaming Kargas for the extortion orders. He points to a hidden ledger detailing the illegal taxes. Ethan begins scanning the incriminating evidence. With the evidence secured, Ethan summons Hans. Hans confirms that every moment was captured within a monocrystal. A magical recording sphere holds their fate. Ethan hands Hans a formal warning for Kargas alongside the device. One final order. Ethan clarifies that, while Kargas wanted more gold, he didn't authorize Heims to pocket the extra. He instructs Hans to ensure Heims never steps out of line again. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure reads a letter. They deduce Ethan is flexing his muscles to dominate the upcoming family summit and force Kargas into submission. Watching the sphere, an ally realizes this chaos is the perfect cover to spy on the young Archduke. "Keep me posted," the ally commands. Meanwhile, back at the manor, Baron Kargas is absolutely losing his mind. He realizes he's being set up as a sacrificial pawn by his bosses. He reads Ethan's warning about the tax fraud. Recalling Ethan's terrifying strength, Kargas knows he's cornered. He summons his butler to initiate a desperate gamble. He orders Ruin to the hunting lodge, while officially inviting the Archduke into his viper's den. Kargas marks Ethan for death. This rivalry just turned lethal. Ethan's tax purge has the Baron absolutely fuming. Everything is going according to plan. In his office, Ethan summons Myers. The next phase of his scheme is ready. The mission: infiltrate a branch family. Ethan's got a special task for him. Myers is floored. "Why send him there?" Ethan promises. "It'll all make sense soon." Reason 1. Terran is gone. Now only 2 main successors remain in this game. While Ethan dismantles Kargas, he needs to keep the branch families under control. They hate Ethan's moves, but can't touch him thanks to his absolute immunity. To block Ethan, the branch families will search for their own puppet successor. They've already tried to recruit Myers. The realization hits Myers like a freight train. If Myers plays the part, he'll have their full, unquestioned support. The chessboard is set. Myers finally sees Ethan's brilliant political strategy. They're going behind enemy lines. Ethan warns him this mission is high stakes. Myers doesn't flinch. He accepts the risk. Ethan just needs him to fake loyalty. By gathering their support, Myers buys Ethan time to finish Baron Kargas. First target, Count Fern's powerful branch. Hans will be Myers' shadow and muscle. Fired up, Myers vows to crush this mission for the family's future. Outside, crates are loaded. A worried girl watches her heart sinking with every box. She confronts Myers about his sudden departure. He's clueless about her feelings. She's livid. Who leaves for 6 months without even a proper goodbye? He apologizes, promising to write. She reluctantly tells him to just stay safe. Just as he's leaving, Ethan stops him. One last word between two brothers in arms. Ethan's trust is absolute. Myers is deeply moved by the weight of that faith. "Leave it to me," Myers shouts as the carriage finally pulls away into the distance. Ethan watches the dust settle. The sound of hooves marks the start of war. Two carriages split off through the forest, heading toward their separate destinies. Suddenly, crash, a massive rock jolts the carriage, throwing everyone inside into total chaos. Two arrogant nobles complain instantly. Is the Baron even worth this much trouble? The blonde noble whines about his allowance. He wants a payout for his suffering. His attendant reveals a shock the Baron granted him 100 gold. From 1 gold to 100, he remembers his gambling losses with bitter spite. He's enraged. Why give a vagrant that much when he could spend it? "Keep 10 coins. Give me the other 90, he snarls, greed taking over. The attendant agrees. 10 coins is plenty for a commoner's troubles, right? The noble snatches the gold. 10 for the homeless, 10 days of partying for him. The attendant worries. Ethan, the man who crushed a knight, is not someone to cross. The noble laughs it off. He thinks he's untouchable because he's a somebody. Plus, as a new 3-star knight, he's convinced he's at the top of the world. Ethan remembers a past life. An ally once told him to keep moving forward. "I'll defend this place until you return," the ally vowed. But that was then. Now Ethan swings his wooden sword, striking with the weight of 1,000 regrets. Where is Terran? He hasn't been able to find him since this life began. He imagines Terran struggling alone to save their family. The guilt is suffocating. Ethan wants to storm out and find him right now. His frustration boils over. A flaming aura erupts. Ethan's explosive strikes pulverize every training dummy in sight. Surveying the area, Ethan realizes his foes won't let Terran go easily. Their dirty tactics make his blood boil even hotter. Suddenly, a carriage wheel crunches against a pebble outside. Ethan freezes mid-swing, his training session interrupted. He glares toward the disturbance as the horses hurl to a halt. Right in front of him, a luxury carriage settles. An attendant declares their arrival. Inside, the nobleman prepares to disembark. He whines about climbing such a steep trek. Meanwhile, Ethan stands outside, his gaze icy and unwelcoming. He barks a demand for their identity. Smirking, a blonde aristocrat claims he's delivering Baron Kargas's charity. A heavy gold pouch thuds at Ethan's boots. The noble sneers, asking if a peasant has ever seen such wealth. Gold coins spill and dance across the dirt. Ethan remains motionless, which the noble mistakes for pure shock. The homeless archduke seems stunned. Then, without even turning around, Ethan speaks. He asks why a royal house should kneel to common dukes. Infuriated, the noble demands gratitude for his generosity. He mocks Ethan for living off their scraps. In response, Ethan glides forward and delivers a devastating strike. The noble hurtles backward, spitting blood in the dirt. He can't believe a lowly drifter just laid hands on him. Ethan seizes his collar as the man stammers. Hoisting him up, Ethan demands he repeat his pathetic name. He intimidates the shaking noble into answering. "Kargas," what Ethan growls, forcing him to state his full rank. As the name Baron Kargas leaves his lips, Ethan's fist connects again. Screams erupt as the one-sided beatdown begins. Gasping for air, the noble desperately channels his internal mana, his body beginning to shimmer. He bellows that Ethan's lost it and ignites his aura. "You're dead," he shrieks as his power explodes outward. Cerulean lightning surges across his chest. His violent aura flares, hoisting him up as he struggles. Ethan catches a familiar yet distorted ripple in the air. This arrogant noble is actually mimicking the Duke family's secret breathing style. The noble growls about snapping Ethan's wrist like a twig. But to Ethan, the execution feels clumsy, a pathetic insult to the real deal. The display is chaotic and unrefined. Recalling his family's polished mastery, Ethan realizes this rat must have stolen their ancestral secrets. Did he self-teach? Highly unlikely. Regardless, Ethan smirks, thankful he's packing a unique countermeasure for this exact situation. With one thought, he can neutralize the Duke's art. Ethan shatters the noble's aura, sending him into a violent, spasming shock. Crimson energy dances around Ethan's fist as his opponent hits the dirt. Even while trembling, the noble pathetically claims he felt nothing. He's desperate to keep his pride. Suddenly, a cold chill hits him. Wait, what? He watches in horror as his aura evaporates. His mana core turns pitch black. Screaming in pure agony, he bellows, demanding to know what kind of curse Ethan just unleashed. Ethan coldly explains that he's locked the man's mana away forever. He scoffs at the stunned noble, calling him a common thief. You played with stolen scrolls you couldn't comprehend. Powerless and enraged, the noble swings a desperate, uncoordinated punch at Ethan's face. Ethan intercepts with a clinical strike. A devastating kick sends the noble cratering into the earth with bone-shattering momentum. Ethan towers over the wreckage, his gaze icy. He glares at the trembling attendant, demanding the real reason for their visit. Shaking, the servant presents a summons from Baron Kargas, paired with a bribe of 100 gold coins for Ethan's support. Keep your gold, Ethan says. He expected the Baron to reach out eventually, wondering what kind of game he was playing. Scanning the invitation, Ethan finds the timing perfect. The Baron wants a face-to-face meeting by tomorrow. How convenient. Servants prep the carriage for immediate departure. Helen bites her lip, her voice filled with worry as she questions Ethan's safety. Going alone, Ethan shrugs it off, claiming he's just a guest. Before she can argue, he raises a hand to silence her. He vows to come back in one piece. As Ethan rolls away, Helen watches with a comical, worried chibi expression on her face. She mutters that just talking usually doesn't involve carrying a sharp sword. Meanwhile, Ethan narrows his eyes, nearing the Baron's territory. Whatever the Baron plots, his fate is already sealed. Ethan figures the old man is hiding an ace up his sleeve. Since he was bold enough to invite him, Ethan will personally witness how the Baron plans to fix this absolute disaster. We move to Pore, where the Baron's flashy headquarters dominates the skyline. Ethan scans the city with a critical eye. Beneath the glitz, the commoners are drowning in misery, yet somehow the Arden Dukes are the only ones getting all the hate. Pulling up to the mansion, Ethan feels the ancestral Arden blood boiling in his veins. "We are here," Master the driver announces. A burly man greets Ethan with pure disrespect, questioning his identity. This meathead is the Baron's third son, and he's clearly annoyed. He grumbles about his father's stupid invitation before demanding to know where his brother is. Ethan shuts him down instantly. A mere commoner barking at a duke's direct heir, Ethan sneers. Enraged, the third son lunges and seizes Ethan's outfit. He clutches Ethan's collar, vowing to beat the entitlement out of a spoiled brat who hides behind a fancy family name. Ethan's eyes ignite with a terrifying light as his bloodlust floods the air. The meathead misinterprets Ethan's grin for mere amusement. He moves to strike, but Ethan is faster. An explosive upward kick sends the heavy warrior soaring into the sky. The sun slams back down, cratering into the courtyard. Ethan scoffs, mocking the idea of a low-tier thug trying to correct him. Battered and broken, the third son can't believe he was one-shotted. Meanwhile, Ethan nonchalantly hauls the younger brother's limp body along. Ethan dumps the bound and gagged younger brother right in front of him. "I believe you were looking for this," he jests. Livid, the third son bellows, asking if Ethan did this to his kin. Ethan just offers a chilling, satisfied smirk. Guilty. Who else would have the guts? The son's aura flares as he gears up for a real brawl, roaring a desperate insult. Lighting sparks off his blades as he charges with murderous intent. He screams a death threat, lunging straight for Ethan's throat. As the stage for battle is set, Ethan sighs. He's genuinely annoyed that another weakling thinks they can take him down. The knight uses stolen maneuvers, but his swings catch nothing but air. He freezes in shock. His blade hasn't touched a thing. Where did he go? Before he can blink, Ethan materializes behind him and slams his skull deep into the dirt. The impact is tectonic. Debris erupts everywhere as Ethan buries the knight under the weight of his monstrous strength. Looking down, we see the knight literally fused with the pavement. Ethan towers over him, looking completely bored. So persistent. "It is actually annoying," Ethan mutters. He shifts his cold gaze toward the rest of the Baron's pathetic guards. Watching their leader get wrecked, the guards start shaking. The power gap is a canyon. Ethan just stands there perfectly composed. Ethan knows the Baron is peeking from the shadows. This beatdown, it is just a small teaser for the main event. Eyes icy and heart steeled, Ethan marches toward the mansion's core. The time for games is over. The reckoning starts now. Heaving his colossal blade over the defeated knight, he delivers a chilling and calm ultimatum. One last blow will end this. But as he retreats, a sharp command echoes and steel flashes toward him. A pink-haired knight intercepts our hero Sparks, flying as their blades collide in a fresh, deadly dance. Steel blurs through the air as the hero braces. The challenger reveals himself as Menharten. The Baron's Grandmaster barks that the Archduke has crossed the line, demanding he stand down immediately. Menharten swears to unleash hell if the Archduke won't submit. Our protagonist just smirks, questioning his resolve. "You think I've gone too far," he mocks, hoisting his massive sword while staring the knight down. He asks if threatening the rightful heir of a great house is a death wish or just stupid. Pointing at the mangled thug, the hero dares Menharten to try and survive a real, serious strike. He scoffs that if they want blood, they'll need someone way stronger than this pathetic loser. To win, Menharten must prove he's more than just another weakling. Accepting the challenge, the knight prepares. Offering a grim apology, Manhattan ignites his mana, launching a devastating shockwave of pure steel at the hero. Caught off guard, the protagonist digs in. Manhattan seizes the moment, raining down a flurry of strikes. A crimson aura flares as our hero parries the Grandmaster's relentless multi-angled whirlwind of steel. He lunges with a massive sweep, desperate to break the Archduke's icy composure. Their blades collide. Earth-shattering shockwaves erupt. Noting the knight's skill, our hero acknowledges his power. Not bad, he thinks, tanking heavy blows while standing his ground like an unmovable mountain. Shattering the pressure, the Archduke flexes his raw power, forcing the legendary Grandmaster to retreat. Manhattan doubles down, hoping to overwhelm him. Both warriors lunge forward in a high-speed blur of motion. Steel screams as they pass. Suddenly, the protagonist's eyes sharpen, sensing something hidden in the chaos. With a roar, Manhattan dives for the kill. The impact is massive, blowing the unconscious thug away. The earth shatters beneath them. Manhattan thinks he's finally blinded the Archduke victory within his grasp. He aims to capture him alive, but the Archduke unleashes a counter so violent it's terrifying. A surge of raw energy obliterates the knight's plan. Manhattan freezes, his jaw dropping in shock. Reality hits hard as he coughs up blood. Panic sets in. The Archduke's counter is pure lethal destruction. At the final millisecond, the hero shifts his aim. The killing blow only grazes the knight's shoulder. Mercy. The Archduke towers behind the dazed Grandmaster, having clearly pulled his punch to spare him. Shaken, Manhattan realizes he's alive by choice. He can't fathom why the Archduke diverted that lethal strike. He was dead to rights. Why show mercy now? Before he can process it, a scream interrupts. As he stumbles back, a rage-filled screech signals the arrival of the rest of the Baron's clan. The Baroness frantically rushes to her broken son, Ruin, sobbing for him to open his eyes. Shaking with pure fury, she curses the hero, screaming that a fading ducal house dared touch her boy. She shrieks for Manhattan to arrest this lunatic instantly, demanding to know why the hell he's just standing there. Enough, a thunderous voice commands silence. Baron Helmut descends the stairs, surrounded by soldiers, his eyes burning with authority. His aura chokes the air. The Baroness wails, accusing the Archduke of brutalizing their children. Helmut promises to settle this and orders his wife to safety, telling Manhattan to guard her and Ruin. The Grandmaster obeys. Helmut turns to the Archduke, acknowledging him for the first time in an entire decade. He demands his son's return before they talk terms, but the Archduke isn't in a giving mood. "It's been a while, Helmut, but the answer is no," he retorts, towering over the mangled thug. Sword pressed against the man's throat, he declares that hunting a ducal heir carries a heavy, blood-soaked price. As he prepares for execution, the Baron panics, begging for restraint, and offering a hollow apology for Ruin. He argues that ducal law is dead. Even with the Archduke's immunity, things have changed. The Senate rules now, and Ruin's fate lies with them. He suggests they bury the hatchet and unite. Together, House Arden could thrive. Ignoring the bribe, the Archduke levels his blade directly at Helmut's heart. If Arden isn't the heart of this house, he growls, his fury boiling over, then who the hell is? If Arden isn't the soul of this land, these retainers are useless. Helmut bellows the Archduke's name weapon, trembling with pure rage. The massive blade thunders into the earth inches from Dexter's throat. Helmut freezes, his voice dying in his chest. Fed up, Helmut unsheathes his steel, warning the Archduke to stop playing games. One more move and he won't make it out alive. "Hand over my son and beg for mercy on your knees," he snarls, clutching Dexter's collar tight. The Archduke just laughs, mocking the very idea of penance. He drags Dexter's broken form across the dirt like trash. With eyes of ice, he marks the entire Kargas bloodline for total annihilation. The Baron is finished. "You betrayed your oath." He delivers a bone-shattering blow while listing every pathetic attempt to bury the Baron's sins. "Threatening the heir was your final mistake. For the crime of high treason, I pass my judgment. Your titles, your land, your very home, gone." Helmut's pride boils over his face, twisting in absolute disbelief. How dare a mere brat lecture me on the law? He fumes, hating that this youth is passing sentence. Knights take him down. He whispers a dark order, break the Archduke so he can never meddle again. Foreseeing the backstab, the Archduke calls him a low-tier rat and braces for the coming onslaught. His blade erupts in flames. Meanwhile, in Palantium, the Hydra Empire's heart, the political gears begin to grind. Inside the Imperial Council, things are winding down until a final call for business echoes through the hall. Marquis Bluton of House Bessa steps forward, seeking the Emperor's ear. His Majesty finds this sudden interest quite intriguing. Given the floor, Bluton drops a bombshell. Archduke Arden has arrived for a personal audience. The legendary heir, who was once left comatose by a massive mana surge, is finally standing before the throne. The Emperor's mind races. When did the Arden name align itself with the power of the Bessa family? The message is clear. Baron Kargas has completely shattered his sacred oath to his lord in multiple ways. Bluton lists the crimes, illegal tariffs, hidden armies, and forbidden power plays. The Baron's rap sheet is long. He leaked the family's secret techniques. Nobles whisper that the 7 families will not be pleased. The great families are fuming. Crystal clear memory sphere footage proves the Kargas family's guilt beyond any doubt. With the evidence locked in, Arden demands the immediate seizure of the Baron's entire fortress and lands. The Emperor weighs his options, the political power of the 7, or the legendary strength of House Arden. It's a tough call. He decides it's not his burden to carry labeling this a private family matter. Since Arden was cut from the Senate, he'll stay out of it. Let them settle their own blood feuds. The Archduke must resolve this alone. The Emperor has officially stepped back. Message sent. Bluton realizes the truth with a chill. The king just left Arden out to dry. No help is coming. As Arden fights alone, the Baroness is rushed into a hidden chamber, trembling with fear. She weeps uncontrollably, while servants seal the room and prepare tea to soothe her frayed nerves. Mid-sob Menharten announces his return to the battlefield. The staff begs the Grandmaster to watch his back. His heavy armor clanks through the hall. Alone with his thoughts, a cold dread begins to sink in. Why was he spared? That mercy feels more like a threat. Meanwhile, the real chaos erupts outside. The Archduke mows through knights like paper, swiping them aside with his massive blade, like annoying flies. He dances through their combined assault. One fool thinks he's found a gap and lunges for the kill. A shockwave hits him dead on, but the Archduke emerges from the dust, looking bored out of his mind. Completely unscathed, he glides through a storm of steel. Not a single blade even grazes his skin. He drives his sword into the dirt, using the hilt as a pivot for his next insane move. He vaults through the air, sending a knight flying. Helmut watches, screaming for his men to swarm him. Pin him down. Hearing his family is safe, Helmut offers a smug thanks to Menharten for the rescue. "Don't worry, darling, my knights will finish this trash," he sneers, brimming with unearned confidence. Menharten watches from the shadows, sensing something is off. The Archduke isn't actually fighting. He's holding back. He's ignoring lethal openings. He isn't even trying to win. He's just waiting. He's toying with them like a cat with mice. The Archduke smirks, his confidence radiating off him. Disgusted by their weakness, he stomps the earth and launches himself into the sky like a rocket. Blade drawn, the knights tremble as he coldly counts every last one of his targets. Prep time is over. He detonates a colossal wave of crimson energy. That tide surges across the courtyard, incinerating the knights in a catastrophic blast of pure power. Helmut and Menharten reel back, eyes wide as Helmut screams, "Where did you learn such a move?" The Archduke barrels through the shockwaves while Helmut desperately bellows that there is no escape. He vows to rot him in the dungeon forever. As the Archduke firmly slams his blade down, channeling even greater force, he prepares a devastating wide-range strike that will shatter the field. Careful to spare the innocent, he floods his blade with violent flaring aura until the air screams. The gathered energy spirals into a hellish vortex with the Archduke at its center. Helmut's soul quakes. Panicked, he shrieks about what foul trick this is, but the Archduke just lets out a roar. Pushing the technique to its zenith, the explosion erupts in a blinding flash. Menharten can only watch horrified. With blazing eyes, the Archduke pours everything into the strike, as Menharten frantically screams for everyone to move. It is the Arden's secret ultimate art second form, the legendary explosive fire wave. It shreds through the ranks, while elsewhere a woman winces as hot tea scalds her hand. Her heart sinks for Ethan, praying he is not doing something completely insane again. Staring outside, she admits that recklessness is just part of his charm, however strange it feels. She actually misses the roar of battle, while enemies are swallowed whole by the Archduke's raging inferno. Shielding himself, Menharten is stunned that such world-ending destruction came from so little mana. The firestorm wipes the courtyard clean. When the haze lifts, only corpses of knights remain. A few survivors crawl through the dirt, as Helmut and Menharten stand shattered by the aftermath. Helmut gapes his brain, refusing to process the nightmare, unfolding right before his very eyes. Terror sets in. His elite, 1,000-man slayers have been sliced clean in half like paper. One swing erased them. The Archduke grips his hilt, feeling his mana reserves hitting absolute zero. He is at his physical breaking point. Without the monarch's blessing, he would have collapsed. Emerging from the mist like a vengeful god, he tells Helmut that Judgment Day has finally arrived. He declares that Helmut's long-standing arrogance toward the Duco family is a sin beyond forgiveness. Shaking with fear, Helmut offers a mountain of gold to anyone who can still take Ethan down. Menharten is awestruck. That massive attack was laser-precise, choosing only the enemies as its prey. Within that sea of flames, any survivor now understands the terrifying gap in their power. They would be suicidal to draw their swords again. The Archduke just shoots a relaxed smirk. He casually asks the trembling Grandmaster if he is ready for round 2. Menharten bows his head. He confesses his absolute defeat, admitting he is no longer worthy to stand against the Archduke. Ethan uses magic on the hysterical Baron, while someone scoffs at the man's pathetic excuses. Ethan's glowing hand sinks into the Baron's chest, drawing a scream of agony that pierces the air. Ethan commands Manhattan to throw the Baron in a cell, leaving the nearby knight in total shock. Manhattan protests his knightly honor, but Ethan insists that he is the only one he trusts. He reminds him that by committing treason, the Baron has already forfeited his title and his honor. Ethan warns that the Baron's escape means death for his entire bloodline, leaving Manhattan utterly horrified. Ethan tells him to remember his duty as a true knight, and Manhattan finally reluctantly submits. They stand over the broken Baron, while the Kargath banner burns. From his cell, the coward rants. The caged Baron screams threats at Ethan, clawing at the iron bars and demanding his freedom. He yells for Manhattan to open the door, but Ethan simply turns his back on him. As Ethan walks away from the darkness, Manhattan calls out, begging for one final answer. Manhattan recalls how they all drew their blades against Ethan on the Baron's direct orders. He asks why some were spared. Ethan simply replies that a sword always reveals the soul. True knights communicate through cold steel. Ethan recalls how every snake he's encountered since his mana awakening sought to bury the Arden name forever. From the moment his mana surged, even cowards like Helmet were desperate to wipe the Duke's legacy from history. Yet clashing blades with Manhattan sparked a revelation. Some souls still held a flicker of genuine reverence for House Arden. In the heat of that duel, he felt a rare, unspoken honor. It was a phantom sensation that lingered. Ethan felt a strange sense of relief. He tells Manhattan that whether it is regret or nostalgia, it changes nothing. For Manhattan, simply knowing the Duke's steel is still honored provides all the closure he needs. Wrapping up their exchange, Ethan leaves the dungeon's fate in Manhattan's hands before departing. Stepping into the Baron's office, Ethan calls for the Archduke only to be met by a curious, unfamiliar voice. A polished blonde noble named Raymond introduces himself as the Baron's firstborn, claiming he has been expecting Ethan's arrival. Ethan scoffs internally. This man is greeting the very person who threw his entire family behind bars. Ethan narrows his eyes, warning Raymond to choose his next words wisely if he values his life. Raymond trembles, desperate to distance himself from his kin while pitching a deal. Ethan's lips curl into a predatory smirk. Flustered, Raymond waits. Ethan scoffs, telling the noble he clearly does not understand the reality of his situation. Deals require equal footing. Suddenly, Ethan lunges, seizing Raymond by the throat and hoisting him off the ground. He growls about the Baron's treason against the Arden bloodline. Does this rat really think he is in any position to bargain? Gasping for air, Raymond realizes his life is hanging by a thread. He needs to talk fast. He wheezes out intel regarding the seventh family, instantly piquing Ethan's interest. Ethan drops him like trash, demanding details. As Raymond heaves on the floor, Ethan delivers a chilling promise, one lie, and he joins his father in jail. Raymond swears the info is legit, trembling as he presents a heavy crimson-bound volume. It is a pre-technology agreement. Ethan's mind flashes back to the Arden downfall, when their pride was trampled into dust. He recalls the seventh family swooping in like vultures, demanding the sacred vision book from the Arden branches. Their excuse, rebuilding the military and protecting the realm. It was a blatant, power-hungry lie. Crushed by pressure, the side branches surrendered the Arden's secrets. Raymond confesses the harsh truth. They were too pathetic to unlock its power and too cowardly to defy the strong. Instead, they paid for a watered-down version from the seventh family. Ethan stares at the pathetic bootleg before him. He sneers at their sheer incompetence. Raymond adds that translating high-tier mana breathing was insanely expensive. To pay for it, they bled the people dry with taxes. Ethan flips through the pages unimpressed. He tosses the book aside as literal garbage, claiming these skills are worthless trash. Raymond is visibly stunned. No real Arden would give up true secrets. These collateral families were played like fools and lost everything. Ethan muses that they only allied when death was at their door. Now they are just driven by greed. With no common enemy, they have turned into monsters. Ethan decides to spare the survivors for a price. He commands Raymond to hand over every single account book and await further orders in the outbuilding. Suddenly, a chilling memory flashes back the desolate, blood-soaked battlefield where the Arden banner once fell. He sees the mangled corpses of friends and foes alike, scattered across a landscape of pure devastation. Surrounded by scorched armor and smoldering remains, Ethan is lost. He was just at the training grounds. This sudden shift leaves him disoriented. Then, a thunderous demonic roar echoes through the hellscape. A nightmare-inducing beast emerges. Ethan braces himself as a colossal blade comes crashing down toward his skull. Another warrior dives in, taking the lethal blow. A guttural scream pierces the air. Ethan stands untouched, questioning his sanity. Is this real or just a cruel illusion? It is a haunting memory from his former life. A familiar voice rings out, mocking him for his victory. A figure emerges from the smoke. Recognition hits Ethan like a freight train, and he begins to scream. It is Kargas, a man who should be rotting in hell. The ghost accuses Ethan of being an unpredictable monster. Kargas sneers, calling Ethan a mere outsider who is disrupting the natural flow of the world. Visions of fallen comrades and bitter enemies flood Ethan's mind as he desperately rejects the accusation. He lets out a defiant roar. He refuses to be a bystander while the world burns. With a primal roar, he shatters the illusion. Ethan snaps back, breathless, to the reality of the training ground. Shredded practice targets litter the floor. He gasps, fueled by the realization that Myers and Taryn are still alive. In this life, he'll be their absolute shield. Right or wrong doesn't matter. He'll protect his family at any cost. Suddenly, a comedic vibe hits as Ethan jumps, startled by an unseen voice claiming his resolve is totally wrong. Elsewhere, an old man causes a scene at the gates, screaming at guards that the Archduke knows him personally. He fights past the attendants, demanding entry. This old man refuses to be turned away from his meeting. He spots Ethan and yells for Priscian. Ethan greets him, noting that the merchants, Mitchell and Jaren, arrive too. Priscian breaks down in tears of joy. Seeing him, Ethan's mind flashes back to the tragedies of his previous life. Priscian was once a legendary administrative genius who single-handedly balanced Arden's complex paperwork. He explains that he and other loyalists were purged for backing Ethan, leaving him in these humble rags. Ethan realizes the Senate is rotting the house from within. Luckily, his perfect administrator has finally appeared. Grateful for this stroke of fate, Ethan welcomes Priscian and introduces Michelin as their new partner. Priscian apologizes for Michelin's loud entrance, but the merchant waves it off, completely unfazed by the drama. Michelin admits he was stunned when Ethan seized the Baron's title. He starts to mention the Senate's shadow. Ethan shuts that conversation down instantly. He declares with cold certainty that this land belongs to Arden. He calls it Arden's sovereign territory. Michelin hesitates, noting that such claims usually require the king's blessing. Recalling Raymond's intel, Ethan mocks the collateral houses for the pathetic political theater they've staged. As the true heir, he needs no permission. He even mocks the king for letting the kingdom crumble. Michelin nearly chokes on his tea. He nervously whispers that even with immunity, such treason is lethal. Ethan just smirks, telling them to relax. He'll be delivering some incredible news very soon. Trusting the young lord's gaze, Michelin heads out to execute the high-stakes mission Ethan assigned him. Priscian beams at Ethan's growth. Realizing they'll need more staff, he offers to introduce a special ward. Ethan is stunned by the news. The doors open and a youth with striking blue hair enters the room. Priscian explains the boy was adopted through connections. The youth bows low, showing perfect disciplined respect. He introduces himself as Lawrence, addressing Ethan with the formal gravity of a high-ranking duke. The name Lawrence echoes in Ethan's mind. Suddenly, a vision of Sylvia from his past overlaps the boy. Something feels off. The scene shifts to the Aryan Plains, where Arden's banners fly proudly once again. Ethan, clad in heavy armor, leads his cavalry to the front lines. Sylvia gallops up to join him. All units are locked and loaded. Ethan praises the speed, but Sylvia remains humble, focused on the mission. They've spent an entire week grinding out a strategy to turn this desperate war around. Everything rides on Arden's elite, death-defying core units. Sylvia just waits for Ethan's final command. Ethan is floored by the tactical genius. Sylvia's placement of the cavalry is nothing short of a masterclass. But he worries. Sylvia hasn't slept in 3 days, pushing past human limits to perfect the plan. Sylvia admits rest is impossible, while lives hang in the balance. Every loss weighs on his soul. On the horizon, dragon-like monsters sound their war horns. The final clash is here. These beasts threaten the world. Sylvia vows to use his tactics to save as many people as possible. He's ready to die for the cause. Ethan responds that they are going to slaughter these invaders. As the monsters march, Ethan watches the clock. Timing is everything for the countermaneuver. Arden's horns scream back. Massive engines creak, unleashing a rain of heavy stone upon the enemy. The earth tremors as boulders crush the lines. Ethan raises his blade and orders the all-out charge. To arms, explosions rock the battlefield. History would remember this day as an absolute bloodbath. Ethan cuts through the chaos. Even with Sylvia's brilliance, the toll in human lives is devastating. Against all odds, they seize victory. Later, a weary Ethan carries a blood-soaked Sylvia from the field. Blood stains the ground. Ethan realizes with a heavy heart this was the last time he saw Sylvia alive. Back in the present, Ethan is certain. This youth is Sylvia. But why is he using a different name? Lawrence is a total enigma. Not just the name, but his vibe is leagues away from the Sylvia Ethan once knew. Lawrence drops a bombshell. Heavy taxes starved his family. Ethan realizes the timeline has shifted drastically from his past life. With Arden gone, the Collado families turned into straight-up tyrants. Priscilla breaks down the grim reality of their rule. This kid sought Ethan out personally. Now Ethan's curious. Does Lawrence possess that same legendary genius? Time to test him. Switching to formal mode, Ethan gets real. They all know the Baron's cooked, so he asks, what's the move here? Lawrence's take, keep them alive as pathetic scarecrows. A brutal living warning to anyone else thinking of crossing the line. Ethan pushes for the why. Lawrence explains that as long as the house name survives, it acts as a political shield. Even as powerless husks, they make rivals hesitate. Plus, Ethan can milk these desperate remnants for top-tier informant intel later. Fact is, Ethan's low on soldiers. Lawrence argues he needs every pawn available, cold logic that Priscilla totally backs. That future comment catches Ethan's ear. He leans in asking the kid for his next big strategic move going forward. Lawrence doesn't blink build a private army. You can't solo 9 major houses without some serious heat backing you up. The strategy, gaslight, the side branches into a civil war. Let the enemies delete each other while you play master. Buy time, then seize 4 key zones. Split the Duke's land into 3 blocks and checkmate victory is basically served. Hearing this, Ethan's soul shakes. It's confirmed this is the same brilliant tactician he fought alongside in his previous life. Ethan shoots Priscilla a look. This kid isn't just smart. He's dangerously sharp, exceeding every single expectation Ethan had. Ethan asks for one more opinion, catching Lawrence off guard. Seeing Sylvia's ghost, Ethan extends the ultimate offer. Be my advisor. Meanwhile, chains rattle as guards drag the Baron's humiliated retainers through the town toward a building. The captives are shoved into a dingy makeshift holding cell. Guards stand watch, but the air is thick with tension. Suddenly, a guard hits the floor with a scream. Manhattan steps up, telling the wounded man to back off immediately. A retainer erupts in a golden glow of power, screaming traitor. He demands to know if Manhattan is truly a knight. Manhattan's mana surges as he glares at the fallen noble. Why should he waste loyalty on a corrupt relic like him? The Baron wreathed in, wild mana roars in fury. He claims his power wasn't a solo achievement, everyone shared that strength. Manhattan stays cold. He acknowledges the power, but counters that a real knight's duty is choosing the right allies. Blinded by betrayal, the Baron lunges. He screams, insults, charging at Manhattan with every ounce of his remaining strength. Keep talking, Manhattan mutters. He braces himself, channeling pure mana into a devastating counterstrike that's ready to pop. Boom. The impact shatters the air as Manhattan's fist buries into the Baron's gut, sending him flying across the room. Tie him up and crush his mana circuits, Manhattan orders. As they obey, a mysterious voice praises his ruthless work. It's the advisor. The white-haired strategist walks in with an eerie calmness that immediately puts Manhattan on high alert. Manhattan studies him silently. He can't forget the first time this stranger ordered him to annihilate the 8 gates. Back then he was shocked he even listened. Now watching the broken Baron, he realizes how calculated this kid is. The advisor moves with a terrifying robotic precision. It's like he's been planning this exact downfall for a lifetime. Who is this guy? Manhattan wonders. But there's no time. The advisor urges them to move before anyone notices. 7 gates left. Manhattan grips his sword, vowing to wipe every single one off the map before the sun sets. Later in the quiet library, the Archduke sits down with the advisor to verify the insane intel he just shared. The blacksmith dips for a walk, leaving the 2 power players alone. A heavy, suffocating silence stretches across the table. The advisor offers a polite bow, but delivers a hard no. He's turning down the Archduke's prestigious offer point blank. The Archduke asks for a reason. The advisor falters, his composure cracking as he struggles to find the right words. Then the mask drops. I'm a girl, she confesses. A child of the slums who grew up in society's gutters. Life was hell. Her father didn't hate the Baron. He saved all his venom for his own daughter's gender. Instead of blaming the taxes that stole his medicine, he blamed her existence. He died cursing her for being a girl. His final breath was pure hatred. Furious she wasn't a boy capable of joining the knights. She was his only target. After he died, the tax hounds came knocking. Since the money was gone, they planned to sell her as a slave. She wouldn't leave her little brother. Together, they became ghosts, constantly running to escape the clutches of the slave collectors. They survived on scraps and pickpocketing. Every crime she committed was a desperate attempt to keep her brother alive. But even that fragile piece shattered. In a heartbreaking flash, her brother is ripped away, leaving her utterly alone. The 8 Dark Gates hounds tracked them down, leaving Lawrence's lifeless body in their wake. Stripped of her treasures and scorned for her gender, she drifted into a void of despair. With Lawrence gone, she shed her identity to walk the path of a man. Fearing the scandal would taint the Archduke, she bowed out, refusing the prestigious advisor role. The Archduke's fist shattered the table as he roared, commanding her to ignore the world's bigotry. Declaring talent is genderless, he ordered her to rule Arden and crush anyone who dared mock her. He sneered, exposing the 8 gates as nothing more than the Baron's dirty tools for tax dodging. He dangled vengeance before her, offering an army. Her response? Just give me 24 hours. With ice-cold resolve, she swore to purge the 8 gates. The Archduke's grin confirmed the pact. Eagerly awaiting the bloodshed, he watched as the shadows shifted toward the sprawling city of Hermes. Within Kelmond Castle, a weary Duke Myers closed his ledger and sought out Count Shaman Ferns. Admiring the lavish study, Myers faced the low-ranking count, who questioned the sudden visit from royalty. Myers confessed the Archduke had turned erratic since his awakening, sparking a flicker of alarm. Prodded for details, Myers rolled up his sleeve to reveal a nasty purple-black bruise. He claimed the Archduke struck him, adding that poor Hans also suffers the madman's daily wrath. Sick of the abuse, Myers recalled a once gentle brother now twisted by the surging mana rush. Chaemon wore a mask of concern. While his mind raced, everything was finally clicking into place. With helmet missing, he realized the Archduke had struck first, but caution was still his ally. Chaemon intended to puppet the naive Duke, but Meyer's sudden piercing gaze broke his focus. A predatory smirk crossed Meyer's face as he offered the Count a deal he couldn't refuse. Outside the Grand Manor loomed a silent witness, as Chaemon echoed the word, deal, in disbelief. Myers nodded. He hadn't come for tea but to exploit the fractured unity of the minor nobility. Rivalries tore the Senate apart, a fact Chaemon desperately tried to keep hidden. Panic flared in Chaemon. Myers knew about the warring Hamilton and Fern's factions vying for dominance. Count Lugon's hounds stood on one side, facing off against Chaemon's own ambitious Fern's faction. Locked in a stalemate, both sides waited like starving wolves for a single moment of weakness. Myers saw the trap. He was being systematically dismantled to turn his lineage into mere puppets. He fingered Helmut Kargas as the hitman, but noted the true mastermind lurked in the shadows. Myers pointed straight at Count Lugon as the traitor, revealing the true purpose of his visit. He proposed a deadly alliance, leaving a visibly shaken Chaemon scrambling to find his footing. Chaemon sensed a hidden player. Myers then dangled the throne, help him topple the tyrant Archduke. In exchange for the dukedom, Myers promised to help Chaemon erase Count Lugon from existence. This was the ultimate jackpot. Chaemon's laughter echoed as he swore his loyalty to the coup. As night fell over the conspiracy, a sharp rapping at the window broke the heavy silence. Chaemon beckoned the shadow inside, revealing Hans the servant, bowing low before his secret master. The pleasantries were short. Chaemon immediately cornered Hans for poisoning the young duke with lies. Questioned on his dangerous game, Hans admitted his true allegiance was to the House of Kargas. He sought Chaemon's shield, desperate to save the young duke from the Archduke's violent outbursts. Why not go to the barons? Because the Archduke's lethal hatred for Kargas made that suicide. Avoiding the baron's lair was survival. Seeking the rival faction would have meant certain death. Hans had twisted the facts to survive. Chaemon chuckled, impressed by the servant's cunning and utility. You chose wisely, Chaemon noted before dropping the bombshell. That helmet had completely vanished. As Hans reeled, Chaemon claimed him as a permanent piece on his own chessboard. Hans bowed and feigned gratitude, while Chaemon merely dismissed the thanks with a cold wave. The web was messy, but Chaemon could feel the threads finally tightening around his enemies. Helmut's downfall leaves the Archduke's next move shrouded in mystery. Hans seizes the moment, volunteering for the mission to the Baron's estate. Playing his role as Chaemon's mole, he boasts his inside knowledge will be clutch. Chaemon's eyes gleam with interest at the tempting offer. Can Hans track the Archduke's every move? Confidently, he vows to succeed. Chaemon hands over a crystal ball to seal the deal. Hans grabs a communication pouch ready to relay intel. As he departs, his heavy footsteps signal the official start of their high-stakes operation. Everything is going exactly to plan. After seeing Myers crush his part of the mission, Hans swears he won't be the weak link. Chaemon seeks a second opinion from the darkness. Suddenly, Grandmaster Lowenstein emerges from the shadows, revealing he's been lurking there the whole time. Lowenstein admits the story sounds legit but suspiciously convenient for Chaemon. While no immediate threat, he drops a cold, calculated warning. Chaemon must verify the facts and unmask Myers. Manharten recalls the Archduke was unlike any man he'd ever met. In his decades as a knight, he'd never witnessed such a cold, terrifying presence before encountering that man. Memories of Lawrence torching a stronghold haunt him. He watched as criminals were brutally dismantled without a shred of human mercy. Amidst the flames, Lawrence looks heartless. His resolve is steel. Manharten fearfully whispers to the advisor that this is too much. Prisoners march toward the inferno as Manharten begs for restraint. Lawrence simply replies that the Archduke demanded these criminals be erased entirely. He promised total annihilation. Witnessing that demonic determination, Manharten realized he was looking at a true monster in human skin. A soldier shivers at the memory, claiming he got goosebumps. To them, Lawrence looked like a literal devil devouring men. Veteran guards warn the rookie assigned to the cells. Tread lightly because Lawrence's basement is basically the gates of hell. The rookie asks if devil is some street gang name. Suddenly, Lawrence's shadow looms over the gate, startling the terrified guards. Lawrence requests an audience with the Archduke. He's sent to the outdoor grounds where the Archduke is currently refining his deadly swordsmanship. Alone among the targets, he exhales and readies his blade. Suddenly, he explodes into a lethal sequence of footwork. A whirlwind of strikes begins. He flips through the air, his blade a silver blur that shreds the dummies into kindling instantly. One final devastating swing shatters the targets. A massive arc of steel brings the brutal training session to a violent end. Streaks of light show where his blade passed. A powerful shockwave ripples out, scattering the splintered wreckage across the training field. Surrounded by debris, he sighs. This no longer challenges him. Lawrence enters the arena, announcing he has an urgent report to deliver. As he unbuckles his belt, they plan their next move. They'll recruit survivors from the gates to build an elite spy network. Can they strike now? Lawrence estimates 60% readiness. Suddenly, a soldier breaks in to announce that Hans has finally arrived. Hearing the name Hans, the Archduke heads to his office. He gestures for Lawrence to follow, his eyes narrowing with anticipation. The Archduke smirks, knowing Hans's infiltration was successful. Soon they'll see if their grand gamble has truly paid off. Meanwhile, at Kilmund Castle, the air rings with the sound of steel. Trainees clash under the watchful eyes of their commanders. Armored and ready, Myers prepares for battle. The duel ignites as swords clash violently across the castle courtyard. Myers dominates the field with raw power. He redirects an incoming strike with his shield before delivering a bone-crushing counterattack. Roaring, he maintains a relentless offensive. An opponent leaps from above, but Myers' reflexes are lightning fast as he counters the drop. He catches a blade inches from his throat. Watching from the balcony, Hyman and Lawson realize Myers is a true beast. He's perfect to lead the family. Shaman notes that the legendary Arden bloodline is clearly thriving within Myers' very soul. Lawson is ordered to keep Logan in the dark. While he tracks the Archduke, the Grandmaster will handle the actual execution. Hyman smirks, anticipating the coming family summit. A new message is raised, signaling the next phase of his twisted master plan. Back home, the Archduke learns Myers is thriving. He asks Hans how Count Chiman swallowed their bait. Hans reports the Count fell for their lies completely. Being stationed with the Baron makes leaking intel a total breeze now. Lawrence realizes the Archduke is systematically tearing the collateral families apart. Is the Grand Family gathering the ultimate target? The Archduke nods. Hans is shaken. How did Lawrence know? He stares at the advisor, wondering who he truly is. Lawrence officially introduces Hans as the Archduke's Chamberlain. He warns that they'll be spending a lot of quality time together. Finally, Lawrence reveals his true title, the Archduke's Advisor. Between them sits a steaming teacup, masking the cold strategy within. The tension is thick. Facing the advisor, Hans mutters about the sheer pressure of meeting such a formidable mastermind. The Archduke reflects on his short absence. In just 1 week, his household has gained a truly terrifying new player. He watches the white-haired boy, questioning if the child is truly that brilliant. What's next? The advisor stresses that their upcoming moves require surgical precision and perfect timing to succeed. As the sun dips below the horizon, the Archduke stares ahead. The real war hasn't even started yet. Scanning the boy's ethereal features, he pictures the Archduke locked in a tender embrace with the youth. Definitely his type, he notes, pulse quickening with twisted fantasies while the boy watches with icy disdain. What trash is rotting behind that face? Calmly, the youth notes the Chamberlain's obvious lack of affection. Panicked, the official stammers a denial, though inwardly he's just weirded out by the kid's age. The boy ignores the drama. Just do your job, he says, sliding over a high-stakes situational report. While the Chamberlain scans it, the boy feels dismissed, yet senses a hidden competence in the man. Suddenly, the official's face pales. The contents of the report are nothing short of a total bombshell. Baron Helmet and his heirs, jailed, he gasps. The boy casually drops that their executions are imminent. The Chamberlain panics over their noble status, but the youth shuts him down with cold, hard body counts. Hundreds starved last winter, the boy retorts, erasing any pity for the Baron's cruel, greedy reign. Victims were broken and abused by the Baron's dogs. He forces the Chamberlain to face the ugly truth. They drew steel against Arden's own blood. Is death still too much? The boy's voice is razor sharp. With a lethal smirk, he questions the man's loyalty. Terrified, the Chamberlain thanks heaven he didn't join them. Reading on his jaw drops. All 8 demonic gates were completely annihilated in a single day. Just one of many incidents, the boy confirms, then demands to know the Chamberlain's next move. Scrambling for relevance, the man pitches a plan to deceive a count and use the youngest duke. And then, what the boy presses, clearly unimpressed by such a basic amateur level of plotting. Stung by the judgment, the Chamberlain insists his infiltration was a masterclass in swift adaptive manipulation. The boy just sighs. Chamberlain, he calls, softly, his patience for this mediocrity, finally reaching its limit. Thinking he's being mocked, the official bristles, but the youth offers to fix his mess for him. Setting down his tea, the boy mentions a vital detail, making the Chamberlain demand answers immediately. Go back now and you're a dead man, he warns. The icy prophecy chills the official to the bone. Silence falls as the danger sinks in. Later, within the castle's stone walls, the mood shifts significantly. Praise is offered to the weary travelers, as they're ushered through the grand, towering doorway to meet. The Archduke speaks highly of you. Jaren, a merchant from Mesa, introduces himself with professional grace. He offers his services eagerly. The boy tells him to relax the formalities, but Jaren refuses. Respect for the Archduke's advisor is non-negotiable. Turning to the merchant, the Archduke asks for progress. Jaren presents a sealed response to their desperate appeal, his expression suggesting the news isn't great. It's not what we wanted, he warns. The Archduke accepts it calmly, thanking Marquis Bluton for the effort. He rips the envelope open, scanning the text. A sharp, knowing smirk plays across the Archduke's lips. Long-winded, a flat-out refusal and hideous handwriting, he scoffs. Jaren notes the Emperor is clearly playing favorites. He fears the Archduke is cornered again, but the leader reveals the Emperor has simply stepped back. Let them settle it themselves, the Emperor had said. To Jaren's shock, the boy calls this a win. Seeing Jaren's confusion, the boy recalls his mentor's warning, the king and the great houses are the real targets. By ignoring the appeal, the king walked right into the Archduke's trap, giving them total freedom of movement. The letter confirms everything. The 7 great families are the ones pulling the strings behind the scenes. The king sold us out for his own skin, the Archduke adds, leaving the others reeling in shock. Slamming the desk, he declares, they'll deal with that later. Every piece of their grand design is set. The king built the stage. Now we perform. With a predatory grin, he signals the real war starts now. Later, the Archduke listens intently. So Jaren, you want to flood the entire nation with this potion? Jaren nods, admitting his own merchant network is too small for a rollout of this massive scale. Marquis Basis's connections are the key. Their vast reach will ensure the potion touches every corner of the realm. The export profits will be astronomical. Jaren starts, but the Archduke cuts in with a firm agreement. He has no reason to decline such a golden opportunity. They seal the deal with a powerful handshake. Jaren vows success. Elsewhere, the boy's gloved knuckles rap against a door echoing through the silent corridor. Come in, the Archduke commands. The young boy enters with a bow, reporting that every piece is finally in place. With a polite nod, the Archduke takes his leave. Jaren simply smiles, signaling that he's perfectly fine with the sudden departure. Detailed plans will follow soon. Jaren offers his gratitude, then steps out alongside the boy into the quiet hallway. Manharten is already waiting below. As the boy rushes off, Jaren remains behind, a mysterious smirk tugging at his lips. Jaren wonders if the Archduke saw this coming all along. He's impossible to read. Meanwhile, the duo strides through the corridors. The boy realizes the Archduke isn't just playing, he already has the entire kingdom cornered. The Arden legacy is finally rising. Seizing the moment, the Archduke puts Lawrence in charge of moving the secret elixir. With Jaren's files secured, Manharten accepts his mission. Moments later, the Archduke's boots echo through a cold stone passageway. Is this it? He asks. Manharten nods, pointing toward the heavy iron door holding the disgraced Baron Helmet captive. Despite the brutal torture, the Baron remains tight-lipped. The Archduke decides it's time for a more personal, terrifying touch. Commending his knight, the Archduke grabs the key. He then orders the Grandmaster back to his post. He'll take it from here. Noticing his knight's hesitation, he reaffirms his vow. The Baron's family will live as long as the deal stands. A sharp salute, and Manharten is gone. The heavy silence of the dungeon is broken only by a scavenging rat. Slumped against the damp wall, Baron Helmet drowns in his own regret. How could he have been so incredibly stupid? He recalls his younger days, weak, paranoid, and surrounded by sharks. Back then, he survived by playing the timid sheep. But power corrupts. His rise in the Senate blinded him with ego. Now sobbing in the dark, he tastes total defeat. His fatal flaw, underestimating the Archduke. He pushed a monster into a corner without realizing the sheer terror he'd unleashed. The screech of the lock sends the Baron into a panic. The heavy door swings open, revealing the Archduke's shadow. He stammers in pure fright, but seeing the boy nearby triggers a visceral wave of absolute trauma. The boy just stares, eyes cold as ice. Suddenly, the Baron is reliving every agonizing lash of that whip again. A piercing shriek echoes. As they draw near, he cowers, begging them to stay away from his shattered remains. I told you everything, he wails, curling into a ball. But the Archduke isn't buying this pathetic performance. He knows the Baron is still holding back. The coward thinks his secrets are his only shield from the abyss. He plays dumb. You're stalling for backup, the Archduke says, but no one is coming. Give up on that hope. A royal parchment hits the floor. Read it and weep, Baron. That golden seal is unmistakable. It's an official royal decree. Coldly, the Archduke breaks the news. The king has washed his hands of you. You're alone now. The Baron's jaw drops as the horror sinks in. He clutches the paper, letting out a broken, manic laugh before collapsing into a fit of hysterical sobbing. Finally, he snaps. Total defeat washes over him. I'll talk. I'll tell you every single secret I have. He begs for mercy for his sons. Their lives depend on your honesty, the Archduke warns. Spill everything. There's a hidden fourth basement, the Baron confesses. It holds treasures, including a relic from the late Duke himself. The Archduke's eyes flare. A relic. Did you dare steal the legendary Godblade from my family? His rage explodes. Panicked, the Baron waves his hands, swearing it's something else entirely. He begins to explain. He couldn't have stolen it. It's already shattered. The Archduke freezes. Shattered. The indestructible blade was actually broken. The legendary Drenian, the blade meant to last forever, is gone. This was the ultimate divine weapon. It could slice through reality and survive the fires of hell itself. Truly a masterpiece beyond human understanding. The pride of the Arden line. The Archduke remembers his past life gripping that very hilt in battle. He carried it into his final fatal war. Even in defeat, that sword never flinched against the darkness. It tanked the Dragon King's wrath. There's no way it broke. This claim has to be a lie. "Tell me everything about that blade," he snarls. The Baron sighs, beginning the tale from 15 years ago. The Hydra Empire's Wyvernians invaded like a plague. The kingdom fell in days, but Arden didn't back down. They sent their strongest, a suicide squad of elite warriors. These monsters were on a whole different level. They faced the Dragon King himself. Only bodies came back, and among the dead, just the empty hilt. His father fought that beast to the bitter end. "And what about the dragon?" the Archduke asks tensely. "No one knows," the Baron whispers. After that squad fell, the Dragon King vanished into thin air. The Archduke deduces the Dragon King vanished into hiding, wondering if his squad truly crippled the beast. He questions why it retreated. Their kingdoms surprisingly signed a non-aggression pact instead of finishing the job. The Baron speaks up, dredging up ghosts of the past. These events predated the Archduke's long slumber. Is his mind failing? The Archduke snaps, demanding a straight and direct answer. Stuttering in fear, the Baron confesses the pact was orchestrated. He reveals the Genin Empire spearheaded the entire suspicious ceasefire. They bullied neighboring empires into signing the deal. The revelation rocks the Archduke. Then their path reveals a hidden staircase. As the Archduke and the boy descend the dark steps, they confirm the secret passage is real. Helmut's story was actually legit. Raising his lantern, the Archduke realizes that if this tunnel exists, then the Baron's entire testimony is likely the stone-cold truth. He pushes for more gritty details during the interrogation, but the Baron pleads that he has already spilled every secret. The Baron wraps up his tale, claiming the Dragon Lord vanished into thin air after that bloodbath. But there is a catch. The dragon's army remained, so the balance of power stayed static. Soon, a mysterious envoy arrived to negotiate with the Empire. Starting the long road to peace, the Archduke summarizes how the strongest Western Empire finally agreed to lay down their arms. When the Wyvernians made peace, every other kingdom fell in line. Venturing deeper underground, the Archduke admits he is totally baffled. The Archduke still cannot wrap his head around the Empire's motives, noting their current power level is absolutely insane. Their strength eclipses everything from his past life. He vows to investigate later, just as the boy announces they have arrived. They reach their destination. Before them looms a massive magical barrier, inscribed directly onto the stone wall. The Archduke identifies the complex anti-intruder spell. He raises his light, genuinely impressed by the elite craftsmanship of the defenses. He decides it's time to break the seal. The boy accepts a unique medallion and prepares to handle the unlocking. He presses the medallion against the glowing array, sparking the magic. As the door slides open, he recalls his father's memento. It isn't the God Blade, but he has already got a hunch. Stepping inside, he is almost certain the prize is here. They enter a colossal, archive-like hall. The Archduke is taken aback by just how massive the interior truly is. Staring at the endless piles of artifacts, he wonders if finding one specific needle in this haystack is even possible. Suddenly, his eyes lock onto a target and he smirks. Inside, a glass case rests a strange black, mineral-like mass. The Archduke confirms they have found it, while the Baron recalls the first time he ever saw this eerie substance. He first saw it while inspecting the former Duke's corpse before the burial. At that moment, everyone was paralyzed with shock. They gasped in horror, wondering what this nightmare fuel was. A dark, stone-like fluid was actually seeping from the Duke's body. The mysterious fluid was impossible to identify. The Senate argued fiercely over how they should handle the cursed substance. They eventually decided to divide it up for safety. Back in the archive, the Archduke begins educating the boy about the artifact. The side families never knew the truth. He reveals it is the 8-ring, an heirloom passed down alongside the blade. Clutching the dark orb, he explains the name refers not to its physical form, but to something far more profound. He activates the artifact, invoking the breath of black flame. Dark energy surges through his veins like a rising tidal wave. Glowing circuits ignite across his limbs as the orb transforms into a pulsating fiery mass right in his palm. That energy erupts in a massive shockwave. The Archduke stands tall, completely enveloped in a vortex of swirling crimson power. Surrounded by streaks of raw energy, he looks up calmly as the unleashed power rages violently around him. Flaming mana projectiles streak across the vault toward him. The red energy slams into him, spreading through his entire body. Overwhelmed by the surge, he is blasted back in a cross-shaped explosion of force. The young boy screams in terror. Shocked by the sudden outburst, the absorbed power erupts in a blinding flash. The man exhales, struggling to catch his breath. As the energy settles within him, he inspects his newly empowered body and decides the result is beyond satisfactory. The boy nervously asks what just happened. The man explains the 8-ring is designed to merge directly with the user. He explains the 8-ring is an ancient Arden treasure, usable only by those who carry strong Arden blood. Without the family's secret breathing techniques, it is completely useless. The boy asks if the ring grants special powers. The man confirms it does. Though he looks unchanged, he tells the boy he is about to demonstrate its true power. Warning the boy to stand back, he begins explaining how to forcefully push mana into the 8-ring. The artifact greedily absorbs the energy. As the ring swells, bands of raw power wrap around his wrists and ankles. He notes the invigorating effect restrains him tightly. Feeling that familiar crushing pressure, he prepares for the final stage. He readies the final move. He decides to instantly release all the stored mana with an earth-shattering shout. He detonates the gathered mana, unleashing a violent shockwave. The surge of power tears through the room. Shelves rattle and walls groan. As the dust settles, he stands shrouded in an overwhelming, roaring aura. Gasping for air, the silver-haired boy gazes from the stairs, frozen by the absolute spectacle. Stepping closer, the boy asks if he dumped all his mana, mesmerized by the lingering energy. The man explains that the 8th ring doesn't just store mana, it weaponizes it into pure explosive force. This power makes reclaiming the Duke's territory a breeze. He tells the boy to adjust their strategy accordingly. The boy nods. As they exit, he commands him to locate the remaining 8th ring fragments immediately. The boy agrees. Moving out, the man fumes those in power have spat on his father's noble sacrifice. They're looting the Duke's legacy. Clenching his fists, he swears vengeance against every traitorous collateral branch. He'll punish everyone who tarnished the Arden name, and he'll do it with his own bare hands. Time jumps to a massive city under a towering castle. Inside, shock ripples through as unexpected intel arrives. Ethan discovers the truth. 5 fragments of the 8th ring have already vanished from their lands. 4 pieces were gifted to high-ranking clan heads, while the last sits in the far-off Rimdell Kingdom. His advisor confirms the intel is solid leaked directly from a collateral branch. Ethan knows they wouldn't dare lie now, but admits hunting down every piece will be a nightmare. It doesn't change anything. Crushing those families is required to take back his rightful territory anyway. He pushes forward. Scanning a map of the surrounding noble territories, his gaze sharpens. Their objective is finally clear. With the intel secured, Ethan declares their move. First, they'll seize the fragment closest to Arden. With fire in his eyes, he orders the assault. Rumors ignite in Port City. Tales of a hero's descendant rising to save the people electrify the masses. Word spreads like wildfire. After a decade of brutal tyranny, the people finally see a glimmer of hope. Salvation is coming. At Port Square, a massive crowd surrounds a guillotine guarded by heavy steel. The air buzzes as the crowd spots the prisoners. They're here, people scream, pointing frantically. It's the Baron and his sons. Citizens jeer and hurl insults, savoring every second of their downfall. Fury boils over as grieving families demand blood. The mob screams for the heads of the Baron's line. A guard slams his halberd, demanding silence. The herald booms announcing the Archduke's grand arrival. Ethan strides out in a crimson cloak. The crowd recognizes the man who obliterated the Baron instantly. He did it on day 1. Meet the Archduke of Arden, the savior who purged the city's darkness. Ethan stands before the silent, breathless crowd. All eyes are fixed on him, waiting for his word. He speaks to Port. Ethan declares Baron Kargas a traitor who spat on his sacred vassal oaths. He highlights his crimes. The blood of their families and friends is on the Baron's hands. They suffered too much. As Ethan of Arden, he vows to return peace to their shattered lives. By Arden law, the Baron and his sons lose everything. Their titles, their land, and finally their lives. The crowd roars for their Archduke. Then the blade drops a crimson spray, marks the end of tyranny. The Baron is dead. Elsewhere, a noblewoman stares at the report in pure, unadulterated disbelief. She can't believe Ethan seized Kargas's domain. Lawrence confirms it. The Baron fell the moment Ethan arrived. Now he's rebuilding. But the Duchess fears executing a Senate member will trigger the 9 families. Lawrence stays calm. He reassures her that the Archduke has already calculated every possible fallout. She calls for their carriage. As they head to port, Lawrence keeps her briefed on the move. He agrees. Noticing her hesitation toward their escort, Lawrence prepares to introduce the mysterious knight. The knight bows, introducing himself as her personal guard. Lawrence identifies him as their key secret ally. He's from the Besset family. Outside, the royal entourage readies for departure. The knight leads her to the carriage, his men trailing behind. As the wheels turn, Ethan considers Lawrence's report. Lawrence analyzes the strategy. The Archduke is playing a high-stakes political game. By manipulating the traitorous branches, Ethan secures his path. The Grand Duchess offers Lawrence her thanks. Realizing she bombarded him with questions about family drama, she offers a sincere apology for the sudden interrogation. She quickly follows up by praising his brilliance and kindness. A flustered Lawrence insists she drop the formalities immediately. Hearing he's just a servant, her face beams with joy. She's thrilled to lose the honorifics, and Lawrence enthusiastically agrees. Suddenly, she catches his hands in hers, catching him off guard. She gushes about how grateful she is that Ethan has such a loyal friend. Leaving Lawrence totally shook, she chirps that he feels like a cute younger brother. She genuinely hopes they become besties. Lawrence nods, his face turning beet red. He's stunned that someone so high status and stunning could be this chill and open. He realizes Ethan is the same way, wondering if the Ardens are just built different. Finally, the carriage pulls up to the castle. Rolling through the massive gates, the coach stops at the entrance. Right on time, Ethan steps out to welcome them. Ethan greets his sister warmly, offering a hand to help her down. She gasps, completely awestruck by the sheer scale of the palace. While Ethan leads the way, guards snap to attention. Suddenly, a man steps forward. Knight Polton introduces himself with a formal bow. He's the escort sent by Marquis Bezos, claiming he's heard the legends. Ethan plays it cool, introducing himself and offering a handshake. Polton accepts, looking forward to the partnership. But the moment their hands touch, Ethan detects a sharp surge of hidden mana. Polton is low-key snaking a mana wave up his arm, trying to scan Ethan's power levels right then and there. Ethan admits Polton's stealth is top tier. Most knights wouldn't even notice the sneaky probe, but Ethan isn't most knights. Flexing his superior control, Ethan shatters the probe instantly. Polton's jaw drops as his own mana gets violently bounced back. Ethan clocks Polton as a high-tier 6-star knight. Clearly Marquis Bezos isn't playing around with this alliance anymore. Ethan casually tasks Lawrence with showing the knight to his room. Polton follows silently, though he offers a quick thanks to Ethan. Internally, he's spiraling. How could a puny 2-star mana capacity guy effortlessly scatter a 6-star's energy? It makes zero sense. He refuses to believe a bottom-tier knight could negate his scan. Meanwhile, Ethan's already vibing, chatting with his sister about a new letter. The letter's from Myers. Later, inside the palace, Ethan swings open a door to reveal a room dripping in pure luxury. She's stunned to learn this suite is all hers. She worries it's way too extra, but Ethan insists an Arden Grand Duchess deserves the best. He claims this is the bare minimum for her. In a cute chibi moment, she nervously asks if he's actually serious. He confirms it with zero hesitation. Ethan then suggests she start admin training, asking if she'd be down to help him with paperwork. He tells her she can totally say no, but she's not having it. As his sister, she's determined to back him up. She knows how hard he grinds. Ethan thanks her, promising to study like a beast so he can actually be useful. She gives his cheek a soft sisterly pat. Then Ethan mentions another knight will be her escort until dinner time. She's left blinking in confusion. Ethan tells her to get some rest and vanishes into the hallway before she can ask more. Alone, he contemplates the true power of a 6-star knight. To him, they aren't just swordsmen, they're masters of the blade's essence. They understand the why behind the steel. Ethan knows a 6-star could easily pull off the wild stunts he did back at the port. He realizes why those powerful counts stay so unbothered. They've got whole squads of 6-star monsters at their beck and call. It's only been a month since his glow-up started. He's self-aware enough to know he can't take them in a head-on brawl yet. Ethan heads to Polton's quarters and knocks. When the door swings open, Polton looks absolutely blindsided by the unexpected visit. Ethan politely asks for a moment of his time. Despite the half-unpacked bags, Polton steps aside and lets the Archduke enter. The knight is visibly tense, wondering why a VIP like Ethan came in person. Ethan cuts to the chase. He has a proposal. Since Ethan forgot about Polton's disrespectful mana test at the gate, he figures the knight owes him a favor. Realizing his cover was blown, Polton freezes. He cautiously asks what kind of deal Ethan is looking to make. Ethan explains that since Polton got to test him, it's only fair he gets to learn a thing or two from Polton. He drops the bombshell, a pre-dinner duel. Meanwhile, the Grand Duchess is locked in, buried deep in her study books. Stretching out the kinks, she's shocked by how fast the day went. Her instructor nods, pointing out the sun is already dipping low. She turns to Sir Willie, her temp bodyguard, and invites him to grab dinner. She wants to make sure he's vibing with the plan. Willie is totally honored and accepts instantly. However, he admits he's actually feeling a bit bad for the newcomer Polton. When she asks what's up, he drops the tea. Ethan is planning to throw hands with Polton in a duel. She's stunned. He mentions the fight has likely already started. Instantly, she's gripped by worry, fearing for her brother's safety. Cut to the training grounds, Ethan and Polton are geared up. Without warning, Ethan lunges forward with a devastating opening strike. Polton is forced into a desperate block. He's shocked by the raw power, but Ethan notes that the knight handled it with ease. He's done playing nice. Channeling 8-ring mana into his legs, Ethan prepares to shatter the status quo. Surging with raw energy, he lunges, taunting Polton to keep up. Their collision ignites the air with jagged crimson lightning. He bears down like a predator. Polton digs in his blade, shimmering sapphire against Ethan's ruthless, unending onslaught. Ethan's pressure is suffocating. Gritting his teeth, Polton realizes Ethan's speed is lethal. Holding back now means instant death. Polton ignites his footwork, blurring through the air. Steel meets steel in a high-speed dance of pure devastation. Ethan's eyes flare crimson as his target flickers out of existence. Suddenly, Polton's shadow looms directly behind him. Caught off guard, they clash in a bone-shaking impact. Within the storm, Polton's mind begins to spiral in confusion. It makes zero sense. How can Ethan wield mana with a pulverized core? This guy literally cheated death. It defies every law of magic. Ethan is unleashing raw power that shouldn't even exist in his broken body. Usually, a knight's rank is a simple numbers game, but Ethan isn't playing by the world's rules anymore. Those jagged core fragments, they've transformed into miniature reactors fueled by the scorching essence of eternal fire. This unique anatomy lets mana surge through his veins with terrifying precision, far outstripping any normal knight's circulation. Back in the fray, Ethan's 8-ring enhanced strikes hammer Polton's guard. Their blades shriek in a symphony of destruction. Auras explode crimson versus cobalt. Ethan's boots tear into the earth as he drives forward, exhausted, but grinning like a maniac. Sword buried in the scarred ground, Ethan drops to one knee. He admits this level of carnage is still taxing. Polton can't help but respect the Archduke's grit. Sparring with a top-tier knight shouldn't even be possible for him. Ethan remembers his old obsession with the blade. Now wreathed in aura, both warriors agree the real fight starts now. Ethan triggers his 8-ring ability, shattering his limits. The sheer backlash of his newly awakened power sends him reeling. An energy shockwave ripples out. Polton freezes Ethan's mana output, just spiked into the red zone, his eyes glowing with malice. Focusing every ounce of his soul, Ethan unleashes a monstrous crimson arc that cleaves the very air toward Polton. Polton braces for the impact, summoning a swirling hurricane of cobalt mana to intercept the coming destruction. The duel transcends human limits, becoming a blur of mana-charged collisions. The spectators can only watch in breathless silence. Stunned by the Archduke's ferocity, the witnessing knights recall his past skills and realize he's become a completely different beast. His growth is terrifying. In just a few days, Ethan's talent has evolved from impressive to straight-up legendary. Testing the boy's limits, the knight charges back. He roars, pouring every drop of his being into one final strike. A crushing blow sends Ethan's blade spiraling into the dirt. He's disarmed his weapon, skidding uselessly across the battlefield. Defenseless and gasping for air, Ethan stands wreathed in glowing runes. Polton's cold steel rests directly against his heart. A small smile plays on Ethan's lips as he yields. Polton stands there, stunned into a heavy silence. Ethan admits he couldn't crack Polton's ironclad defense. He offers a genuine thanks, leaving the veteran knight stammering in response. An interruption breaks the moment. Polton can't stop thinking about how Ethan's stats suddenly went off the charts mid-fight. Was the Archduke sandbagging earlier? Ethan just shakes his head no, he was giving it his absolute all from the jump. He attributes the surge to a secret family art. But honestly, if Polton had gone full throttle, it wouldn't have mattered. Ethan thanks him for the lesson, but Polton knows the truth. He's the one who gained something from this clash. Polton realizes he was dead wrong. The rumors didn't do Ethan justice. His actual power is on a whole different level. Looking back, Ethan's movements were textbook perfect, yet they shifted and evolved with every single heartbeat of the fight. By forging an evolving style, Ethan's tactical genius now rivals that of a veteran. He curses his fate, rotting at 6-star for 5 long years despite his blood and sweat. Looking at Ethan, he knows he would be cooked in 6 months if Ethan just had more mana. The Archduke is a straight-up prodigy. Interrupting the silence, a voice calls out. Ethan tells the knight that while he was the teacher, he actually learned a ton from the knight's lethal edge. He then asks for another showdown soon. Ethan is hyped to see such a high-level warrior so hungry for growth. The door is always open. The knight instantly agrees, vibing with Ethan's unique sword style. A future rematch is officially locked in. Deeply moved, the knight bows. Ethan notes that between the escort and the spar, he is looking forward to their partnership. Suddenly, a familiar scream echoes through the air, and Ethan's sister storms in, looking ready to kill. Behind her, a panicked attendant feels like a total snitch. She roasts Ethan for working their guest like a mule, while he frantically tries to defend himself. The knight just watches, baffled by the duality of this man. Ethan is truly built different. He is a walking enigma. As his sister drags him away, the scene shifts to a massive, opulent estate. Peering through a glowing crystal ball, Marquis Bluton demands to know if Ethan is truly Polton's equal. Polton nods, confirming the rumor. The Marquis is shook that the Archduke possesses such monstrous talent. Ethan's ceiling is higher than anyone imagined. Polton admits the kid is faster and deadlier than expected, especially with those Arden family secrets supercharging his mana. This combo of raw talent and refined skill is unprecedented. Impressed, the Marquis orders a full-blown surveillance report on the Archduke. Polton accepts the mission without hesitation. He signs off, promising more intel by the next scheduled update. Left alone, the Marquis remembers Ethan's broken past. A coma and a shattered mana hole should have ended him. Yet here he is throwing hands with a 6-star knight. It is absolutely fascinating. Ethan's wit was always sharp, but this martial prowess is a game-changer. The Marquis cannot sleep on this. He summons his butler, ordering a specific care package and a secret letter to be rushed to Polton. The butler obeys with a sly grin. The Marquis is now fully locked in on his gamble regarding Ethan. He senses the Archduke is about to flip the Hydra Kingdom upside down. This is the ultimate chance to tighten the bond with House Arden. Elsewhere, chaos erupts as a massive building goes up in flames. Total panic sets in. The 8 gates of darkness has been breached. Prisoners are scattering into the night. Guards are ordered to hunt them down or die. They dive into the forest, desperate to catch the fugitives. Chaos fills the streets as more guards join the chase. Nearby, A battered man exhales, hiding in the shadows. With the soldiers distracted by the fire, he whispers about his narrow escape, wondering where to go. Suddenly, cold hands clamp over his face. He is tackled from behind, his screams muffled by a firm grip. Quiet down, the stranger hisses. He claims to be a knight serving the Count, here to extract Sir Hans. A trembling, Hans is told to move out. He follows the knight deeper into the dark, tangled woods. Secretly, Hans smirks, everything is falling right into place. The scene jumps to a flickering, torchlit dungeon. Inside the damp cells, Hans questions the elaborate ruse. A blue-haired agent explains, this is the only way, to fool the Count's paranoid eyes. He warns Hans that the Count is a cold-blooded monster. Remember Baron Kargas, the Count dumped his oldest ally like a piece of trash to save his own skin. Hans realizes a man like that would never trust a simple servant. He feels the weight of the danger. Just as Hans begins to crack, the agent reveals the operation is already a success. Tonight's jailbreak was the perfect smokescreen to smuggle him out. Once clear, a fake pursuer will appear. Running for his life, Hans is stunned. Lawrence's predictions are coming true down to the last detail. Is this guy a genius? The rescuer eventually leads Hans to a secluded safe house. They descend into a hidden basement, the heavy air pressing down. We are here, the knight whispers. Hans sighs in relief, thanking his savior. But then the knight asks why Hans was hiding in the palace. Hans lies through his teeth, claiming Ethan locked him up and tortured him in a dark cell. Seeing the brutal wounds, the knight buys the story. It is clear Hans and the Archduke are enemies now. Ignoring his wounds, Hans desperately urges the knight to alert the Count, claiming he's holding a game-changing secret. He pleads for assistance, explaining that his only means of communication was snatched away during his brutal capture. The sheer gravity of his revelation leaves the knight visibly shaken, as Hans insists the stakes couldn't be higher. While the knight rushes to deliver the message, news reaches Ethan that Hans has successfully taken the bait. Everything is falling into place. This move will force the Count's hand while Ethan scouts new administrative talent. His aide confirms they are poaching top-tier staff, dismissed from the dukedom, a task Ethan leaves in his capable hands. When questioned about his reading, Ethan reveals a letter that carries far more weight than a simple greeting. It's a personal message from Marquis Blounton, prompted by Polton's recent intel. The aide senses a major shift coming. To solidify their blooming alliance, the Marquis intends to fast-track their cooperation by sending a prestigious tribute. The aide realizes this gift is a massive catalyst, while Ethan already knows it's likely a legendary elixir. These aren't ordinary tonics. They are condensed mana harvested from the world's rarest and most mystical ingredients. Such processed elixirs allow a warrior to gorge their mana circuits at speeds that defy normal grueling training. For Ethan, mana is the final hurdle. With his past life mastery, he only needs raw power to regain his peak. By flooding his core with an elixir, his signature fire mana will finally burn with its true devastating intensity. He remembers the soul-scorching heat he once commanded, a level of power that dwarfs his current flickering flames. Any standard blade would simply liquefy under that pressure. A normal sword is nothing but trash to him now. Ethan decides to vanish for a while until the gift arrives, leaving Menharten to hold the line. Backed by 3 elite knights, the estate is secure. Ethan dismisses his aide's confusion, focused on a secret hunt. He's searching for a specific item to handle his awakening power, entrusting the territory's management to his loyal aide. His goal is a weapon forged for a god. He promises to return with a blade that won't shatter. Meanwhile, in the capital of Londinium, Count Lugan slams a report down his fury, vibrating through the room. He snarls at Count Chimon, disgusted that a loyal servant's death was brushed aside like a common nuisance. Lugan demands to know if Chimon would be this calm if the Archduke started slaughtering their own personal staff. Chimon tells him to cool off, warning that an overt assassination attempt would bring the king's wrath upon them. He reminds the gathered nobles that Ethan's blood would spark a purge that could end all 7 families. Lugan shoots back, noting that Chimon would be the primary target if the Archduke's faction ever truly retaliated. He claims Ethan struck because he smelled their dirty laundry, realizing the Fern faction was the true architect of ruin. Furious at the betrayal of the main house, Lugan vows to escalate this conflict until both sides are bleeding. Chimon watches the outburst with a calculating gaze, certain he has the angry man exactly where he wants him. Suddenly, a crystal ball flickers to life. It's Hans reporting that their elaborate deception has worked perfectly. Hans gloats about how he fed Ethan a pack of lies under pressure, successfully framing the wrong faction. Chimon erupts in a triumphant laugh, praising Hans for the flawless performance he knew he could count on. He's thrilled. Ethan is now blindly targeting Baron Lomentin, leaving Chimon to mock Lugan's hollow threats from safety. Elsewhere, the air grows thick. Dungeons, violent vortices where mana gathers, like a brewing storm, loom in the distance. These zones teem with monsters that crystallize mana into stones, making every dungeon a deadly but lucrative goldmine. Since these stones are the lifeblood of magic, dungeons are treated as treasures. Ethan approaches a quiet village. It's been a lifetime since he's been here. He's interested in the local dungeon's loot, but his main target is different. He's prioritizing a mythical metal found only in these depths. A guard's sharp command suddenly brings him to a halt. Entry is strictly forbidden. When the guard demands his identity, Ethan calmly presents a shimmering golden crest. He maintains a polite but chilling tone, asking for passage, while the guards initially prepare to refuse him. Their bravado dies instantly. The golden fire on the emblem is unmistakable, the mark of the Arden Great House. The Archduke, they whisper in terror, frantically opening the gates while sprinting to find the village chief. Ethan rides into a town that feels like a graveyard. The silence in the streets is heavy and unnatural. The townspeople aren't just wary, they look physically ill with anxiety. Ethan realizes this isn't about him. Their eyes are clouded with a specific bone-deep dread. These people are living in absolute fear of someone local. The guard stammers, nervously promising the village chief is being fetched and will arrive shortly. Ethan refuses to wait. He orders the guard to lead him straight to the chief instead. Chief Gillian recounts a hunter's chilling tale of bizarre noises echoing from an old abandoned mine. Investigating the depths, the hunter witnessed the impossible, shambling skeletons working the rocks with pickaxes. Facing Ethan, Gillian reveals the hunter spotted dozens of these bony laborers deep within the tunnels. Undead skeletons, Ethan asks. The chief nods. The terrified hunter fled, but the sounds were real. This reeks of a setup. Ethan suspects someone is secretly excavating rare ore from that shaft. This mineral is aphelion, a metal far harder than steel, though still inferior to legendary mithril. Its massive mana affinity makes it the ultimate material for crafting high-tier magic artifacts and gear. Ethan is shocked. In his past, aphelion wasn't found for years. Someone is way ahead. What on earth are those skeletons digging for in a dead mine, he wonders aloud. The leaders are clueless, but Ethan realizes they have no idea about the treasure beneath them. He must confirm if the puppet master is targeting aphelion. This enemy could be seriously dangerous. Commanding a skeletal army requires immense power, likely a high-ranking dark mage, or even a lich. A lich would be a nightmare. They command elite undead and radiate crushing pressure. Ethan knows he can't defeat a legion yet. If it's a lich, he'll have to retreat. Determined to investigate, he grabs the mine's location and plunges into the dense wild forest. He tracks the directions. Shoving through the thick foliage, he freezes as he spots the entrance. The rhythmic clinking of pickaxes from the small cave mouth confirms it. He's found the hive. Slipping inside, Ethan notes the total lack of guards. The enemy is either arrogant or invincible. Descending, he recalls Gillian's claim about reporting this to the Baron. Yet no records exist. The Baron suppressed the truth. Did he intentionally stay silent about a possible lich threat? This is getting complicated. Deep inside, Ethan finds a swarm of skeletons relentlessly mining the cavern. Under dark magical orders, they excavate the walls. Ethan confirms the prize, it really is aphelion. Is the ore their only goal? His eyes flare crimson as he activates his mana-sensing ability. A surge of sickening purple energy erupts as a hooded necromancer appears among the skeletal workers. Ethan measures the aura. It's a dark mage. Relieved, he realizes it isn't a lich-level threat. Smirking confidently, Ethan ignores the skeletons and walks directly toward the startled dark magician. He confronts the mage in the glowing chamber. Who exactly are you? Ethan demands coldly. Dead men don't need names, the mage sneers, charging his clawed hand with foul dark mana. The arrogant necromancer laughs, threatening to strip Ethan's flesh and turn him into a mindless slave. Ethan's aura blazes with fiery intensity as he draws his blade in one lethal fluid motion. Suddenly, he spots a glowing mana heart. He's shocked. It's a technique that shouldn't exist here. Gripping his sword, Ethan activates wyvern breathing and roars at the magician to answer him. Where did you learn that breathing style? He growls. The mage only lets out an eerie cackle. What's so funny? Ethan snaps. The mage sneers, knowing that secret is a death sentence. Perish brat, the mage screams, launching a massive coiling chain of violet dark magic energy. Ethan braces, then vanishes, leaping aside as the heavy chain shatters the stone floor beneath him. The impact triggers a massive explosion. These chains are pure, compressed mana, packed with lethal energy. My black magic chains slay elite knights, the mage boasts, mocking Ethan as a doomed mercenary. He vows to drain Ethan's mana dry and add his bones to the eternal mining crew. While dodging, Ethan analyzes the foe. High mana capacity, but his combat techniques are totally amateur. The idiot can't hide his mana flow. His magic patterns are obvious and painfully easy to read. Ethan sees the structural flaws. He lunges, aiming his blade directly at the chain's flowing weak point. The magician thinks he's won. Projectiles rain down as his chains slam explosively into the rubble. Trapped by chains, the villain gloats about slaying 5-star knights, while mocking our hero as a weakling. Emerging from rubble, our protagonist tells the mage to shut up. The villain gasps, how is he still alive? The hero blitzes through the iron storm, closing the gap. His spell shattered, the mage lets out a shriek. Shaken that his chains snapped like toothpicks, the mage realizes with dread they weren't just sliced apart. Their internal mana flow was dead stopped. Our hero rockets forward, shattering the ground with a flaming blade. Panic consumes the magician. He fumbles to react desperately, conjuring a dark shield to survive the impending doom. He summons jet-black darkness, praying for salvation. Suddenly, the hero swings a massive, inferno-clad sword arc. The dark mage struggles to hold on, feeling the terrifying power behind the strike. Our hero slips through his defenses, calling the mage's form sloppy. With his blade roaring in flames, the protagonist preps his finishing blow, driving his sword through the dark fog in a head-on collision. The strike guts the magician's chest, leaving him reeling in agony. Paralyzed by fear, the villain howls for his skeletal servants to save him. The bone army swarms the hero, attacking from every side. The mage hides behind his minions, certain that numbers will win. He bets the hero can't handle them all. He orders the hero's execution. Unfazed, our protagonist tightens his iron grip on the burning hilt. With a roar, he erupts with power, unleashing a volcanic wave of fire in one massive slash. The skeletons vanish instantly. The dark mage's barrier begins to splinter under the absolute impact. Focusing his fiery mana, the hero prepares another blast. He slams a point-blank mana wave into the mage. A guttural scream echoes as the mage is blown backward by the explosion. Our hero stands firm. He confirms the hit landed near the heart. Grabbing the villain's throat, he realizes a shocking truth. This mana flow is a carbon copy of the Wyvern tribe's techniques from his past life memories. Those beasts pump energy through their hearts instead of a core, a system known as the dragon heart. He identifies this rare organ. Seeing this wyvern style mixed with human breathing, he knows things are deep. He demands the mage reveal his source, insisting no human could have invented this masterpiece alone. A wyvern must have taught him. Watching the villain's shaky reaction, our hero knows he's hit the jackpot. He demands the full story, promising that staying silent will only make the suffering much worse. Impressed, the mage admits he's a formidable opponent. But as he mentions a secret church, something triggers. A hidden curse activates. A final trap ignites, and the mage's body bursts into eternal dark flames. The resulting explosion rocks the entire mine. When the smoke clears, our hero is still standing. Bruised but alive, he exhales a sigh of relief. That was a close call, but he survived. His 8th ring saved his life. He's at least confirmed that this technique leads back to a church. He remembers a previous life, where a shadow cult worshipped the wyvern's absolute strength. This dead mage was definitely a follower. He also realizes they somehow stole the Baron's lost records. This wyvern church is bad news. They've combined human arts with dragon hearts, making them dangerous. The situation is a total mess. He suspects more sleeper agents are hiding within the Baron's territory. If his hunch is right, the entire region is crawling with these cultist freaks. The wyvern tribe has already breached the borders. The thought of them hiding in his land is insulting. He's furious. Arden family territory is no place for monsters. He vows to hunt them all down. Once his new sword is forged, his to-do list of killing threats is going to get a lot longer. He explains that dwarves are mountain-dwelling masters of ores, jewels, and complex machinery. Their craft is unmatched in this world. No human tech can even touch their legendary skills. Because of greed, humans tried to enslave them. So the dwarves vanished until the Great Wyvern War. Their skills were key to victory then, and our hero was close with them in his past. He knows the secret path to their hidden city. But reaching the town, he finds it eerily empty. It's a ghost town. He expected a hostile welcome, but this silence is much more concerning. His biggest worry was convincing grumpy dwarves to help. Now their total disappearance is a massive problem. Only dwarves can tame Aphelion ore. He sighs, feeling trapped, until a sudden presence shifts the air. Who's there? A dwarf emerges, visibly shook to find a human wandering through these abandoned ruins. Our hero explains he's seeking a master smith. He asks if the clan migrated, sparking the dwarf's curiosity. A commission. Here, the dwarf scoffs, explaining that his people deserted these halls ages ago to chase gold. He's stunned the hero is so clueless. Typical human ignorance, he grumbles, judging the traveler's lack of intel. The hero asks where the masters vanished to. Head north to Greston, the dwarf suggests. That's where they thrive. A human city. The hero is skeptical. Why would dwarf kind, known for their pride, serve within human walls? He hands over a bottle as a parting gift. The dwarf's eyes light up, letting out a booming laugh. You understand us well, human. He grants the hammer's blessing. Suddenly, a memory of old Muradini flashes back. A mug slams down. In a vivid flashback, Muradini screams at the hero for shattering yet another masterwork blade. The legendary blacksmith berates the Arden heir, completely ignoring his noble status, while roasting his terrible swordsmanship. The hero offers gold to settle the debt, but Muradini explodes. You think my pride has a price tag? Just bring me top-shelf booze and wait 30 days, the dwarf commands. I'll forge you a god-tier weapon. Back in reality, the hero recalls that true dwarves valued honor and craftsmanship over petty human prejudices. It's baffling. How could such a proud race abandon their heritage just to chase coin in a foreign city? Later in bustling Greston, a guard captain freezes. Archduke, he gasps, recognizing the hero's prestigious high-ranking status. Seeing the hero's grim expression, the captain worries. Is something wrong, my lord? The hero simply waves him off. He apologizes for the stir. The captain fumbles, stammering that hosting the Archduke is the ultimate flex for Greston. The hero hides a smirk. Around them the market is chaotic, crawling with dwarven merchants hustling for every cent. The energy here is insane, the hero notes. The captain explains these dwarves are the ultimate businessmen. They'll empty your pockets before you can blink, he warns, promising to lead the Archduke to a legit shop. He guarantees the hero will be satisfied with Greston's finest. Trusting the captain, the hero follows him inside. They weave through the district of fire and steam. Finally, the captain halts. We've arrived, my lord. He points toward the most prestigious forge in the city, Steel and Fire. The hype is clearly real. The line is massive. Will we even get in today, the hero wonders. The captain tells him to chill. He heads inside to pull some strings, leaving the hero to observe the crowd, while the heat intensifies. Hey brother, an old dwarf calls out. He notices the hero's pack, sensing something incredibly valuable inside. He detects the Aphelion but scoffs at the forge. Those amateurs, they'll ruin that legendary ore's potential. Impressed by the dwarf's sharp intuition, the hero asks if he truly understands Aphelion. The dwarf roars with laughter. The loud outburst turns heads across the district. As they walk, the dwarf begins dropping high-level smithing lore. He explains how Aphelion amplifies mana, requiring insane temperatures and magic to properly liquefy and shape. It can be compressed beyond steel, he lectures. His technical knowledge is on a whole different level. The real question, the dwarf declares, is if anyone alive knows Aphelion better than me. The answer is no. This echoes Muradini's exact words from the past. The hero smiles, feeling a fated connection to this stranger. The captain returns announcing priority entry for the Archduke. Then his face pales as he sees the dwarf. Pope Lance, he gasps. The hero is stunned. This eccentric old man is actually the famous blacksmith Pope Lance. Realization hits the dwarf. Wait, you're the Arden Archduke, the one who survived that massive mana rush. He recalls the rumors of the hero seizing Karga's land. The hero sighs as Pope Lance suddenly acts all formal. Don't get polite now, the hero teases. I liked you better when you were acting like a bold brat. The captain protests, but the hero makes a snap decision. Forget the official shop. I'm commissioning Pope Lance. He hands over a secret letter for the port. Take this. I'll handle the dwarf. No stress. The captain hesitates, warning that Pope Lance has a dark reputation. The dwarf just stands there, looking smug. He's a genius, the captain whispers, but the man's got a criminal record longer than his beard. Pope Lance begins his tale. 10 years ago, he and his rival William were the apex smiths of the capital. They were locked in a legendary duel for the ultimate prize, becoming the royal family's personal blacksmith. Papillon tasted victory before the contest even began. Certain his artistry surpassed William's, he grinded through sleepless nights. He poured his soul into a career-defining magnum opus. Yet the final verdict was a soul-crushing defeat. William snatched the glory. Papillon later exposed the truth. William rigged the judging and labeled him a pathetic fraud. A criminal record tanked his reputation. Now desperate to clear his name, Papillon drops a bold, high-stakes proposal. Since his shop is almost ready, he'll forge the hero's weapon for 0 gold. The master blacksmith bets it all. If the blade passes the vibe check they sign with the Ardens, he's gambling his entire future on this one. He's going all in on this Archduke-tier blade. The Archduke listens closely, sensing the dwarf is dead serious. The Archduke questions the price of failure. The dwarf doesn't flinch, radiating boss-level confidence. Take my head if it fails, he declares. The Archduke smirks, impressed by that absolute unit of a resolve. Challenge accepted. The Archduke orders him to show his true power. The dwarf practically celebrates on the spot. The deal is locked in. He vows to forge the ultimate Aphelion blade in 3 days. The Archduke looks skeptical. Can one dwarf really speedrun a masterpiece? The smith laughs, claiming his kind has reached a new level. He drops a hint about a lesson from William. He remembers the warning, dwarven pride can be a trap. Pride requires teamwork to truly shine. He looks at his brothers, knowing real allies change the game. He rushes to ink the contract, bragging that Flamehammer Forge is about to drop an absolute banger. The furnace roars to life like a hungry beast. The crew suits up, ready to handle the extreme heat. They blast the furnace with fuel, waiting for orders. As the ore liquefies, a wave of anxiety hits. The heat is insane. The furnace is vibrating. But the master yells to dump every last ingredient in. Forget the furnace. The job comes first. Molten iron bleeds out and they scramble to stabilize the heat. Precision cooling is vital for max durability. Then the real work starts as the glowing metal is pounded. Hammers strike in perfect sync, molding the white-hot steel. One smith carves legendary horn details onto the hilt. A rookie polishes every edge with laser focus. Finally, the master hoists his heavy hammer for the finisher. He delivers bone-shattering strikes. Again and again, he swings, pouring every ounce of strength into the steel. Drenched in sweat and gasping, his focus is unbreakable. The forge screams with the relentless song of steel. Days and nights blur into one. Finally, he hoists a massive ornate greatsword. It's finally finished. We actually clutched it, he tells his crew. Just then, the Archduke arrives to inspect the legendary loot. The timing is perfect for the final ritual. He explains that while the blade is formed, it's still incomplete. This Aphelion steel requires mana quenching. The Archduke blinks, never having heard of such a high-level technique. Mana quenching, he mutters, intrigued. It's a concept completely foreign to the noble world. It means pumping raw mana straight into the blade's core. The dwarf hands over the instructions. Flood it with power, he says. The Archduke grips the hilt, testing the balance of this masterwork. It feels weightless, balanced, and terrifyingly sharp. He tentatively pushes a tiny bit of mana inside. The steel drinks his energy like a thirsty beast. Suddenly, a vortex of mana fire erupts around him. Back off, he warns the smiths. He's about to unleash the Arden family's secret ultimate move. With Fireblade, he ignites the steel. The Master Smith watches in awe as the room turns into a furnace. That's the legendary Arden flame. The heat becomes unbearable, forcing the dwarves to dive for cover. The sword hums with power, and the Archduke pushes his limits. He cranks his mana to the absolute max. He dumps his entire mana pool into the steel. The dwarf stares, terrified by the violent storm of aura. A flash of solar fire erupts, blinding everyone. As the smoke clears, swirling embers signal the end. The blade now pulses with an eternal flame. The Archduke hoists it high, a satisfied grin on his face. Peeking from hiding, the dwarves sense the insane power. It's better than they ever imagined. They cheer for Papillon. He passed the impossible trial. The Archduke vows to send reinforcements and rare ores soon. He'll return with the contract, officially bringing Flamehammer Forge into the Arden family's elite circle. In the flickering torchlight, a realization dawns. The mystery of the Baron's undead tolerance starts to make sense. Walking down the dark stairs, someone admits their shock at the undead. A knight finally prepares to explain. The Archduke demanded a full-scale hunt for the necromancer controlling the undead. Thinking a prisoner holds the key, they hit the dungeons. Lucky for them, the Baron is out. Time to grill his loyal servant. They find the Baron's butler in chains, waiting for the heat. The butler trembles as the interrogation begins. The knight drops the name Pellerin like a bomb. He asks if he recalls the town's desperate plea. The butler nods, but the knight isn't done. Why did the Baron bury the truth and ignore their cries? The butler chokes on his words. He remembers a hooded figure in black, manifesting inside the Baron's office like a ghost from nowhere. Dismissed every time, the butler suspects the Baron was just a puppet for this mysterious visitor. The Baron obeyed every order, even suppressing Pellerin's plea. The butler recalls the aftermath of those meetings. Sneaking back in, he heard the Baron spiraling, frantic over how many mages the enemy actually possessed. The advisor realizes the truth. Since the door stayed shut, the visitor must be using spatial magic. This wasn't just invisibility. The butler's out of info, but the advisor's gears are still turning. Shadow magic is ruled out, the butler would have noticed. Interrogation over the pieces are falling into place. The advisor signals the Grandmaster he's got a lead. He mobilizes the knights to scour the entire dukedom. He wants answers before the Archduke returns. Time jumps to a massive steel-clad fortress under the sun. The sky is clear as a sentry spots the horizon, booming the news of the Archduke's return. The gates swing wide. The Archduke rides through a sea of soldiers standing at rigid attention. The legendary sword Aphelion gleams on his back. Lawrence greets him, but the Archduke demands the updates. Lawrence confirms total peace. The branch families are finally breathing a massive sigh of relief. While they walk, the Archduke cuts straight to the chase. How's the investigation coming along? It's done. The Archduke's ready to dive in, and Lawrence has the secret files locked and loaded. Inside the study, the Archduke scans the intel as Lawrence breaks down the grim findings. The Archduke reads the verdict aloud. The enemy is definitely messing with high-level spatial travel. 50 mages in the dukedom can warp space. The Archduke is stunned and demands verification instantly. Lawrence confirms every detail was hand-checked. The logic holds up, but the implications are terrifying. Teleporting is a massive mana drain. Most mages wouldn't touch it even if they could. Rich nobles usually rely on insane mana stones to fuel gates, not raw personal power. How can 50 mages pull this off? Then it hits him, the dark mage from the mines. That freak had god-tier mana levels. He links it to that forbidden mana-breathing technique they use, using wyvern skills to overclock mana. If that's gone viral, any mage could become an artificial monster. The report is legit, but the Archduke realizes the real threat lies much deeper. One of those 50 mages is a cult mole. He exhales, bracing himself for the coming war. A knight fanboys over Aphelion. The Archduke smirks. It's a masterpiece forged by legendary dwarven smiths. He brought the smiths into the Arden family. The knight is obsessed with how light it feels. Pure craftsmanship. The Archduke offers to have the dwarves forge a custom blade for him too. The knight is shaking with hype. "Are you for real, my lord?" he stammers out. Guarding his sister deserves a reward. The knight blushes, insisting he's just doing his basic duty. It's been so chill he felt bored. The Archduke shifts focus. How's his sister doing anyway? The Grand Duchess is slaying the paperwork with Phyrexian. Her competence is actually top tier. Even Phyrexian admits she's a total genius. The Archduke beams with pride at her growth. He picked the right team for her. The knight bows, then remembers he has something to deliver. He hands over a sleek box, a special gift from Marquis Bloten. Time to see what's inside. A glowing orb. It's a high-grade elixir designed to make his mana capacity explode. The Marquis knew exactly what he needed. Bloten's legendary insight is still sharp as ever. His instincts haven't changed in this life. Rising, the Archduke reflects on the long road ahead. Against all odds, he successfully grafted the primal embers back into his fractured mana circuits, weaving heat through his broken core. He calculates that by downing this elixir and redlining his mana, he'll finally be ready to break into the third stage. Without hesitation, he downs the black flame essence, bracing his soul for the brutal cultivation process ahead. Entering the treacherous circulation phase, he begins forced fusing the dark embers into his mana, while his body screams under the pressure. He expects a total meltdown of pain, but bets everything on his current mana reserves to tank the agony. First, he pushes the fire essence within his nodes to the absolute breaking point, superheating his mana until it feels like molten steel. As the thermal surge peaks, he steels himself for the sensation of his blood and internal organs, literally turning into liquid fire. He knows the drill. Once the suffering warps his spirit and binds it to the fire, the flames should turn pitch black. According to the ancient manuals, the fire must darken now. He grinds his teeth as raw energy crackles violently across his skin. Tearing through the transformation while bathed in a blinding aura, he lets out a primal roar as the power detonates. The shockwave rattles the entire room to its foundation. But as the smoke clears, he's stunned. The expected agony never came. Staring at his trembling hands, he realizes there's no burning sensation, and wonders if he just completely botched the breakthrough. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes, chilling his spine. He didn't fail. From the embers, a majestic, fiery entity manifests before him. It greets him warmly as the child of fire, and Arden instantly recognizes the legendary spirit, Rorocha. Stuttering in pure shock, he demands to know how a spirit is here. Rorocha simply smiles, confirming he didn't just succeed, he evolved. The spirit reveals that Arden's fire mana is so impossibly pure, it acted as a beacon, something no previous patriarch ever achieved. Arden's internal flame refused to be corrupted, sparing him the darkness. It hits him the family's breath of black flame is actually a curse. Rorocha clarifies that fire born from suffering is a mutation, that black flame is actually a dead end with zero growth potential. Arden is absolutely floored. His family's legendary trump card is actually just a flawed, low-tier shadow of true power. History always claimed the breath of black flame was what made the Arden family the most feared blade masters on the continent. Their dark reputation was built on those corrupted flames. Now Arden realizes his family's entire identity is based on a lie. The spirit's words click perfectly with his past life. He remembers hitting a hard ceiling right when he was about to transcend. He now suspects that invisible barrier was caused by the limits of the black flame itself. So what's the next move? Sensing his inner turmoil, Rorocha mentions an ancient legend where a pure soul achieved a divine descent, just like this. The spirit drops a bombshell. The hero of that legend was none other than the original founder of the Arden clan. A portrait reveals the ancestor Jerome Arden, a god-tier master who secretly designed the ultimate techniques for the great houses. Records of Jerome's true peak were wiped from history over the centuries, leaving behind only whispers and shadows. Legends say he went beyond transcendence, and his flames didn't burn black, they shone with a brilliant, blinding white light. Arden curses his own stupidity for forgetting the myth of the white flame until this very moment. Rorocha notes that Arden has finally realized the true weight of his lineage and the path ahead. The spirit begins to fade, promising to return once Arden's pure flames fully bloom into their true form. Left in the silence, Arden feels the faint hum of a new power, a clue that changes everything he thought he knew. He connects the dots between the founder's white fire, the flawed black flame, and the bottleneck that killed him before. Even though his fire didn't turn black, the circulation is perfect. For the first time, he sees a path to true godhood. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the tense war room of Baron Lament, in the fortified town of Ultron. A panicked messenger sprints through the halls, bursting into the office with a high-priority report from their Kargus mole. The Baron's face goes pale. The Archduke is officially mobilizing his legions to invade their territory. He spirals into a panic, screaming that the Archduke was supposed to be busy with Shimon, while his advisors beg him to stay cool. Their newly minted 5-star knight just scoffs, itching for a fight and claiming he's ready to bury the Archduke himself. Suddenly, the war horn blares from the watchtowers. The ground trembles as a massive cavalry unit charges through the gates. Ethan leads the vanguard, his knights cutting a path through the forest straight toward Baron Lomont's doorstep. With ice in his veins, Ethan gives the final order full throttle toward the city of Ultron. Down in the castle's training grounds, the practice dummies are about to face a storm of steel. A swordsman brings down a mana-infused strike, but Ethan's crimson aura parries the blow with terrifying ease. The opponent is left shaking. He felt a dozen different impacts from a single swing. Ethan's speed is simply built different. Witnessing Ethan's surging mana forge a legendary sword style, the spectator stands frozen in pure disbelief. This is the Solar Prominence, a classified Arden family technique whispered only in legends. Only masters beyond the circulation stage can wield it. Ethan readies himself, planning a relentless chain of fiery strikes. Crimson flames engulf Ethan's form. His opponent flares his blue aura, cursing the sheer pressure of the coming storm. Skill won't save him now. Desperate, the blue swordsman lunges forward, unleashing a massive, world-rending slash. With a thunderous roar, Ethan rockets forward, his aura clashing directly against the enemy's desperate strike. Planting his feet, jaw-locked, Ethan concentrates his fury. He erupts, swinging a devastating arc of ruby light. The colors collide. His partner gapes in horror as Ethan's blade shears through his supposedly invincible blue aura. It was an undodgeable hit, yet Ethan smiles, impressed that the counter forced him to break his planned combo. Internally, his partner is reeling. How did Archduke Ethan reach such monstrous heights so incredibly fast? Acknowledging Ethan's prowess, the man drops his guard. "I'm going all out now," he declares, eyes burning with bloodlust. Ethan remains unfazed. He welcomes the challenge, ready to test his limits, right here at Baron Lomontaine's fortress. Back in the war room, Ethan dissects the Baron's invasion plans. After a cold evaluation, he deems the strategy sufficient. Even the king is cornered now. Ethan's silver-haired advisor confirms that all the shadow work is already finished. Only the public announcement remains, but a lingering doubt persists. Ethan narrows his eyes, demanding to hear the problem. Lomontaine's Grandmaster just hit 5-star rank. The aide warns they need more muscle to survive the coming clash. Ethan scoffs, telling his aide to keep back. These traveling knights, they aren't just guards, they're his elite executioners. The thunder of hooves echoes as Ethan's party rides into town, leaving the bewildered locals whispering in confusion. Terror grips the crowd. They fear more soul-crushing taxes. Ethan takes center stage in the plaza, radiating absolute authority. Scanning the desperate faces, Ethan realizes the truth. Like Kargas before him, this lord is a parasite sucking his people dry. The children are in rags, the men broken. It's clear this land has been left to rot under systematic greed. Sunken eyes and trembling hands tell the whole story. Ethan stands tall, his voice booming across the streets of Polaris. Invoking Kargas's ruin, he announces his royal mission. He's here to expose the rot hiding in this territory. Any breach of the vassal contract means death. Lomontaigne will face the full iron-fisted judgment of the Duke's law. He grills the village elder. Is the Baron doing his job? The old man trembles fear, sealing his lips shut. Words fail the elder as the crowd gasps. The very thought of defying the Baron sends waves of terror through them. Silence reigns until one soul finds his courage. "He's bleeding us dry," the man shouts, exposing the insane tax rates. Like a dam, breaking the voices explode. They flood Ethan with pleas for justice, begging him to end the Baron's tyranny. "We're starving. We can't live like this." The roar of the desperate masses begs for a savior to intervene. The Arden name echoes through the square. Ethan raises a hand, his cold gaze softening. "Your cries have been heard." On his family's honor, he swears vengeance. "Bring me the proof," he commands. "Show me every crime he's committed." He demands every scrap of evidence. Before long, a thick ledger filled with the Baron's sins is placed in his hands. This book is the spark for a total war. He checks with his shadows. Their network has been busy collecting dirt. Just a few more stops, and the evidence will be undeniable. Lomontaine's fate is already sealed in ink and blood. Ethan signals the departure. Elsewhere, a nervous noble paces his study, barking questions at his butler Hans. Is the rumor about Ethan really true? Hans nods, confirming spies spotted Ethan crossing deep into Lomontaine's private territory. Count Lugan is still in the dark. The noble cackles, ordering his agents to keep the information blackout absolute. He wants Ethan to butcher that vassal. Watching Lugan's pet die by the Archduke's blade would be pure comedy. Win or lose the Senate will crush Lugan. The noble grins. This chaotic board is set perfectly in his favor. The setting shifts to the massive walls of Ultron. Ethan stands before the iron gates, the air heavy with impending doom. Clutching the Book of Sins, Ethan comes face to face with the Baron and his terrifying champion, Grandmaster Murin. Knights line the courtyard, weapons ready. The Baron puts on a fake smile. "Archduke, you should have told us you were coming." Ethan shuts him down instantly, slamming the ledger forward. "Speak only if you have a confession worth hearing," he growls. The evidence hits the dirt. The Baron just smirks, grinding his heel into the pages, as if they were trash. "Ah, souvenirs from the village," he muses darkly. His eyes flash with a sinister, murderous light. Once Ethan is handled, that town will be his playground. The Baron signals his lethal subordinate. It is Grandmaster Murin's time to feast. He mocks Ethan's arrival, wondering if he is suicidal or just stupid. Unsheathing his blade, Murin sneers that an Archduke title will not save Ethan from a cold grave. Ethan's laughter echoes. To him, this Baron squad is even more pathetic than Kargas's ever was. Grabbing his massive black slab of steel, Ethan asks if this weak trash talk is all they have got. Blue flames erupt as Murin lunges, asking if Ethan's arrogance can survive this overwhelming pressure. Can Ethan keep that poker face against real genius? Murin strikes with a blinding vertical lightning bolt. The slash blurs past. Ethan's eyes narrow. Murin cackles like a maniac at the near miss. How was that for a hello? Murin brags about his savage fighting spirit and lethal opening move. Ethan sighs at the pure arrogance. Suddenly, the Baron halts the chaos, wanting to negotiate first. Scrambling for leverage, the Baron offers a fake apology, claiming this violence was just a test. He points out the massive gap in power. He demands Ethan recognize who truly holds the cards. A deal is on the table, provided Ethan stays quiet. The Baron claims conflict is unnecessary. He points the finger at Hyman, the snake who used Kargas to exile Ethan in the first place. We are on the same side, the Baron lies, claiming Logan's faction is Hyman's greatest enemy. Ethan scoffs at a deal from someone who just tried to kill him. What is the pitch, he asks. Join Logan, destroy Hyman, and keep the Archduke's seat. A match made in political hell. Ethan bursts into hysterical laughter. The Baron freezes, completely lost as to why this is funny. You have got zero shame, Ethan growls, slamming his heavy blade down and shattering the earth. He bellows Baron Zephon's name. Suddenly, Ethan's blade ignites into a terrifying blood-red inferno. A lowly vassal offering guarantees to an archduke. The disrespect is absolutely staggering. He rejects their petty games. Every traitor in that Senate is now officially on his hit list. They will all face Arden's wrath. Terrified and enraged, the Baron explodes with a blue aura. Murin charges back in, screaming that the talk is over, as he unleashes a jagged energy wave. Steel crashes against steel. Murin yells that Ethan only beat Kargas by buying off his allies. He is convinced Ethan is just a fraud using dirty tricks, and he doubles down on his assault. Does Ethan think the old laws still matter? In this world, only the strong survive. The Baron laughs at Kargas's failure. To him, losing to betrayal is just the price of being old. He boasts that his own knights are unbreakable. Little does he know, Ethan's spy Lawrence knows everything. Ethan realizes the rot in this territory goes deep. It is a cancer that is spreading everywhere. If one neighbor is this corrupt, the whole kingdom is burning. Time to stop holding back. Ethan's power surges like a tsunami. Murin's heart sinks as he realizes Ethan was just playing with him. The warm-up is over, Ethan declares, releasing a devastating wave of pure, concentrated aura. A titanic shockwave of blue light levels the area. Far away, Ethan's mother drops her teacup. Panic grips her. She cannot sit peacefully while her son might be fighting for his life. Grandfather stays calm, assuming Ethan has an army behind him. But he does not know Ethan. Mom knows the truth, her son is a lone wolf who refuses to put others in danger. Grandfather just chuckles. Don't worry, dear. That boy will not even walk away with a scratch. The knight who sparred him knows the truth. No mere Baron stands a chance against Ethan's might. Back at the battlefield, Murin is drowning in confusion. He cannot comprehend how he just lost. He is slammed into a cratered wall, reeling. He thought he had the upper hand for sure. Ethan stands tall, his sword ablaze. The Baron's men scream in terror as their hero falls. Disgraced and broken, Murin fumes. The Baron panics, screaming for his knights to do something, anything. Murin staggers up, pushing his men away. He ignites his aura one last time, fueled by rage. He warns the Baron to move back. I might accidentally kill him. My power is too much. Playing the part, the Baron feigns worry. Suddenly, Murin erupts with a colossal azure aura. Unleashing his ultimate hidden technique, he lunges at Ethan, howling for blood. A massive sapphire explosion levels the courtyard. Surveying the ruin, the Baron merely whines that repairing the garden will be pricey, shamelessly joking about another tax hike. Murin scowls in irritation. He senses the Archduke evaded his strike. Cloaked in crimson mist, he furiously barks for Ethan to come out. Ethan teleports behind him, shattering his focus. With a scarlet flash, he carves through Murin in a heartbeat. Standing atop Murin's back, Ethan exerts total dominance. The fallen Grandmaster is paralyzed by crushing red energy. He gasps, unable to process the gap in their power. Ethan looms over him as Murin trembles before such overwhelming might. Crushed by Ethan's presence, Murin panics, his body refusing to obey. Coldly, Ethan poses a single question. What became of the assassins who dared hunt him at Kargas? Pure terror floods Murin's soul. He shrieks, sensing his impending doom. Across the yard, the Baron flinches at the thunderous impact. His men desperately scream for Murin to answer, praying their champion hasn't fallen. Then Ethan's voice pierces the air. He scoffs that Murin isn't in any condition to chat. Suddenly, Murin's battered body is sent flying through the sky. He skids to a halt at the Baron's feet. Lamontagne and his guards recoil, paralyzed by their Grandmaster's broken state. Staring at the wreckage of his strongest warrior, the Baron stammers in denial. The grim reality starts to sink in. There is no way a Grandmaster could be deleted this easily. Panicking, he shrieks at his knights to take action. He reminds them they have 30 elites and demands they slay the Archduke. The vice commander rallies his shaken men. Barking orders to keep their heads, he commands them into their ultimate combined formation to trap Ethan. For the honor of their master, Ethan watches their desperate struggle with a smirk, mocking their pathetic levels. He won't even need his true powers for this. As the knights charge, Ethan blurs into motion. Engaging the mob, Ethan purposefully nerfs his strength to avoid accidentally turning these weaklings into red paste. Even so, he chants his technique and swings with intent. A colossal firestorm of solar prominence ignites the air. The blazing vortex swallows the battlefield. Screams echo as the knights are consumed by the inferno of Ethan's wrath. The elites are blown away like ragdolls by the shockwave. Ethan strides through the embers with icy composure. He decides to spare the rank and file since they lacked true bloodlust. He concludes that only the female knight harbored a real intent to kill. A flashback shows her nervously aiming at him. A steward watches breathless. The blonde knight's heart races, realizing the monster she's actually facing. Back in the present, she freezes as Ethan suddenly appears at her side. He coldly lists her sins. Bleeding the people dry and drawing steel against a duke are capital crimes under family law. Ethan strips Cyprien Lamontagne of every title and coin. The Baron howls in absolute despair at the verdict. He frantically bellows for his 200 soldiers to shield him, screaming at them to cut Ethan down. He reminds them who signs their paychecks, claiming Zephon, not the Ardens, is their true master. Instead, a deafening metallic clang rings out as the soldiers drop their blades. Their leader steps forward in defiance. They refuse to raise a hand against the Arden family, the very ones who once saved their lives. Ethan smiles. The soldier adds that the very food they eat was stolen from their own starving families through taxes. Cyprien's heart sinks as he realizes Ethan's lecture on justice was a trap to sway the military. Trembling, he finally sees the monster before him, a man with absolute authority, power, and psychological dominance. He is haunted by his own arrogance. How could he have been so blind to Ethan's true nature? Ethan declares the end of the line and conjures a lethal flame. He drives his burning blade through Cyprien. A final agonized scream pierces the air. Ethan stands over the corpse as the crowd watches in stunned silence. Turning to the troops, Ethan thanks them for showing respect to him and his noble house. He reminds them of his vow to end this tyranny while traveling their lands. From this moment, Ethan Arden claims every ounce of the Baron's power. He officially annexes the Burney territory and proclaims its freedom. The soldiers drop to their knees, pledging their eternal loyalty to the Archduke. They loudly praise the name of Arden. The sun sets on the estate, the new symbol of absolute power. Deep inside the office, a bizarre, slime-infused relic, known as the Second Eight Ring, receives high praise. Someone asks if the Baron folded. A subordinate confirms the king's seal, and Helmut's intimidation forced him to talk. Grilling him was easy as the coward begged for life. Ethan declares, mercy depends on the Baron's next answers. It all hinges on a specific book. The silver-haired aide gasps. Ethan reveals he scavenged it from Lomaton's office. The title reads, The Book of the Dragon Race. He demands a fresh interrogation to track the book's origins. This scripture glorifies the Dragon Lord. It lures the weak with promises of ultimate power and divine protection. Followers must chant 9 passages for protection. Ethan realizes this tome is secretly a hidden skill book. It outlines a mana-breathing technique. Ethan compares it to the Dark Mage's skill, deeming this version vastly inferior. Still, it's the same dark system. Ethan confirms the breathing style mirrors the Dark Mage's sinister energy. The method forces mana into the heart, not the core, a recipe for disaster. It grants a fast 4-star rank, but the cost, a fatal heart rupture. Ethan slams the book, shut his eyes cold and sharp. He summons his subordinate. The aide enters bearing fresh intel gathered from the Baron and the locals. The book links directly to the cult. They're using it as sinister bait to recruit desperate new followers. Power-hungry fools who don't fear wyverns would jump at this, blissfully unaware of the deadly side effects. Do the peasants actually swallow this bait? The aide explains, the war left deep, bitter scars on everyone. Despite the peace pact, wyverns are hated. When the book surfaced, locals begged the nobles for help. The nobles ignored them. Whistleblowers vanished with noble help, allowing the cult's influence to spread like a plague. Now, everyone stays silent. Ethan realizes that fear and greed are working hand in hand to rot the city. He suspects Zepron conspired with others just like Helmut. Under pressure, Zepron screams his innocence to Lawrence. He swears he hates the cult. Hysterical Zepron shrieks that the Neuraxis cult has absolutely zero connection to him. He denies everything. Hearing the name, Ethan whispers Neuraxis, his mind racing through dark, forgotten memories. The aide asks if the name matters. Ethan acts nonchalant, but inside his gut is twisting with dread. Neuraxis, a shape-shifting wyvern general known for lies. Ethan recalls that different wyverns possessed wildly varying power levels. They weren't all the same. 6 distinct wyvern bloodlines once unleashed absolute carnage upon all of humanity. Among them were the shifters monsters capable of mimicking humans or plants to hide in plain sight. Shifters are a nightmare. Only a 7-star knight or higher can sniff out their true monstrous forms. It took a year of hunting to kill Neuraxis before. Now, with the peace pact in place, Ethan fears shifters are already hiding among the nobility. He realizes the duchy is crawling with monsters. This timeline is far deadlier than the last. He warns Lawrence that this threat is moving faster than expected. The book's distribution isn't random, it's calculated. Determined, Ethan vows to hunt down the masterminds himself. He must expose the network. That night, under a cold moon, chaos erupts at a small shop. Loud banging echoes through the alley. Inside, the clerk yells that they're closed and to get lost. Grumbling, the clerk loses his temper. He prepares to scream at the idiot, still pounding on the door. Boom! The door shatters from a massive blast. The clerk stands frozen, his ears ringing. Dust fills the ruined entryway. Ethan steps through the debris, dryly announcing that the store is officially open. The trembling clerk tries to argue. Ethan ignores him, slamming the door shut with bone-chilling authority. His presence fills the room. In the back, cultists glare at him, demanding to know who this intruder is. Business is closed, Ethan cold-bloodedly states. He asks if they have a death wish, his eyes burning. He mocks them for peddling wyvern trash. The cultists snarl, taking his insults as an invitation to die. They lunged for the kill. Ethan tells them to get lost, but the thugs just laugh in his face. One thug charges, mocking Ethan's threat. Ethan grits his teeth, his patience finally snapping like a twig. He strikes. Ethan pulverizes the man's face with blinding speed. He glares at the rest like dirt. One final warning, move or die. Terrified, the thugs scramble away like rats from a sinking ship. They stammer pathetic apologies as Ethan stalks forward. One seller panics and tries to run into Ethan. Cornered and shaking, the man shrieks, demanding to know who Ethan is and why he's ruining everything. "Don't you know who I am?" The man barks, threatening to call the guards on this intruder. Ethan just smirks. He finds this fake morality pathetic. Raising his blade, Ethan cold-bloodedly states that peddling wyvern propaganda in Ardenland earns a death sentence. Pure terror washes over the dealer as he connects the dots. "Ardenland," he stammers. Ethan finally drops the bomb. He's the Archduke himself. "Talk, and maybe you'll see tomorrow," Ethan growls. His piercing gaze locks onto the rat, demanding the source of those blasphemous texts. Shaking like a leaf before Ethan's knights, the coward whimpers that he's just a middleman. The order supplies everything. One rat means a whole nest. Ethan leans in, demanding locations for other cells. The man stutters that the order is usually invisible. Then a lead. Whispers mention a hidden branch within Viscount Deacon's borders. Ethan disappears into the dark woods, moving out. He remembers Deacon's land sits right on Baron Karga's old doorstep. A perfect connection. His next target is locked in. Reaching a secluded cave, Ethan surveys the jagged entrance under the moonlight. This has to be the place the dealer mentioned. He analyzes the perimeter in silence. No mana wards, no sentries. It's eerily quiet for a cult base, which is definitely a red flag. They've been nesting here for ages, clearly thinking they're untouchable in this hole. The arrogance of these cultists is beyond belief. As Ethan ventures into the darkness, the air turns foul. A sickening, heavy pressure radiates from deep within the earth. Deep inside, voices echo. A cultist with purple hair brags about his lateful work, recounting his cruelty with a twisted grin. He tortured victims for their gold before slaughtering them like cattle. Even his partner thinks he's moving a bit too wild. "The high priest won't cover for your messy kills forever," his buddy warns. But the purple-haired psycho just laughs it off. He scoffs, claiming the order owns the world, who's gonna stop them. Suddenly, a cold voice cuts through his delusions like ice. "I've heard enough of your filth," Ethan says, materializing from the shadows like a god of vengeance. His patience has evaporated. The duo jumps back, screaming for his name. Ethan steps forward, his eyes ignited with a ghostly, lethal blue radiance. Gripping his massive blade, he tells them, "Dead men don't need introductions. Their bloodlust has sealed their fate tonight." "Does your conscience feel nothing?" Ethan asks. But the idiots just laugh, thinking he's just some random mercenary looking for a payday. One cultist draws his steel, actually excited. To him, Ethan is just a toy to kill to cure his midday boredom. A sinister purple aura flares up around the man. He mocks Ethan, telling the lowly merc to learn his place before dying. Ethan's eyes narrow as he recognizes that twisted breathing style from the manual. "Have you rats already forgotten history?" he snaps. "The Wyvern War meant nothing to you." The cultist just sneers, but Ethan's fury is peaking over these forbidden, murderous arts. These techniques slaughtered millions, and now they're being used for petty murder. Ethan explodes with a violent crimson mana shroud. He questions if they're even human anymore. Then he lunges a devastating spiraling slash aimed straight for the throat. Red energy clashes against the purple mist. The cultist tracks the movement cockily, assuming Ethan's power is just all show. He readies a counter, but he's too late. Ethan brings his flaming sword down like a falling star, shattering the defense. Ethan slips through the guard in a blur. The cultist freezes, staring in pure shock as his life leaks onto the floor. The second cultist snaps, lunging at Ethan in a desperate purple-hued leap. Ethan sidesteps the ambush with effortless grace. Ethan doesn't miss a beat, sliding into his next stance. The attacker is left reeling. How could he miss that easily? Ethan drops from above like a predator. His black spear sword carves through the air, turning the fight into a one-sided slaughter. Clashing energies light up the cave as Ethan overwhelms him. The bleeding cultist starts begging, but Ethan just looks disgusted. "You're pathetic," he mutters. His family bled for this world, and seeing these traitors spit on that sacrifice fuels his rage. Every traitor who sold out humanity will pay in blood. Ethan swears his people will be avenged right here, right now. A sickening crack echoes through the tunnel. Justice has been served. Elsewhere, torches flare as the alarm finally goes off. "Intruder," they scream. Orders fly to notify the high priest as every cultist in the hole grabs their blade. Panic spreads as word hits that the second defense line has crumbled. They scramble, terrified of who or what is coming for them. Covered in the enemy's blood, Ethan is an unstoppable force of nature, advancing deeper into the heart of the lair. They corner him in a ritual chamber, crossbows aimed and ready. "Don't move or we'll turn you into a pincushion." "Quite the welcome party," Ethan quips, unfazed by the numbers. Then the high priest emerges, wearing a smug, punchable grin. He offers Ethan mercy in exchange for answers. Ethan just scoffs. Mercy from a dead man walking is a hilarious joke. "Are you the ringleader of this circus?" Ethan asks. He mocks the priest, questioning if he even realizes whose land he's defiling. The priest claims this cave belongs to the order, but Ethan has zero patience for such delusion. His aura flares violently. Claiming Ardenland territory for wyvern freaks is a death wish. With cold fury, Ethan prepares to wipe every last one out. The high priest commands his zealots to open fire, barking orders to take Ethan alive for interrogation. A lethal rain of violet mana arrows descends. Ethan reacts, unleashing a named technique that ignites the sky. A massive blast of mana shrapnel shreds the projectiles. The archers freeze in shock as their enchanted bolts vanish. Spotting the fire dancing on Ethan's blade, the priest realizes he's dealing with no ordinary knight. Horror strikes the priest. He suspects the intruder is the legendary Archduke Arden. Ethan senses the shift. He realizes these attackers are the Arden-hating wyvern cult, fearing their secret intel has been compromised. The silver-haired villain sees an opening. The Archduke has only recently awakened his true powers. He plots to crush the future threat, now hungry for the high-tier wyvern grimoires promised as a reward. Drunk on greed, the priest visualizes absolute power. He conjures a flickering magical whip of pure flame. He commands the whip to roar, lashing out at the Archduke. Arden notes the priest's unnatural speed. Powerful spells launch with barely a whisper. He suspects the priest is speaking the forbidden wyvern tongue. Wyvern magic is the art of language-worshipping dragons. Its greatest strength, casting without a single word. This requires a second mana hole implanted within the brain, a gruesome process known as language circulation. Arden deduces this priest is connected to more than just the shapeshifter Neuraxis. He's part of a bigger web. The Archduke plants his feet, bracing for the impact. He readies his weapon, eyes narrowing. Something unexpected flashes. The cultists scream that Arden is trapped, unleashing a desperate wave of steel. Ordering total annihilation, Arden judges this foe far deadlier than any black mage. It's time to end this. One decisive strike is all he needs. The priest counters, weaving fire shackles to lock Arden down. Blazing chains bind the Archduke midair. The cultists jeer, convinced they've finally snared their ultimate prey. The priest sneers that any movement will tear his limbs apart. He truly believes the hunt is over. He declares victory, but Arden doesn't flinch. Instead, a terrifying pressure begins to build within him. Mocking the priest's idiocy, Arden erupts. Power shatters the chains as he launches a brutal counteroffensive. The priest recoils, paralyzed by the sudden surge of raw energy. Arden's voice cuts through the air. He reminds the priest that fighting an Arden with fire mana is a death sentence. To an Arden, the priest's flames are nothing but flickering toys. Enraged, the priest fumes at such arrogance. Admitting he miscalculated, the villain vows a slow, painful death and begins channeling a taboo ritual. He invokes a celestial giant, imbuing his whip with cataclysmic force. A violet storm swirls violently. Arden braces himself. He senses the building devastation and knows letting this charge finish would be fatal. He moves to break the ritual, but cultists throw themselves forward, desperate to protect their master's casting. He carves through the fodder, regretting his earlier mercy. The priest begins hacking up blood from the strain. Despite the internal damage, the priest grins, boasting of the terrifying gift bestowed by his hidden patrons. He fires a barrage of violet energy, daring the Archduke to stop his cheap tricks now. Screaming for blood, he hurls the ultimate attack. Arden realizes he's a fraction of a second too late. Pushed to the brink, Arden activates a trump card. He hoped to hide the second circulation. Blazing heat floods his veins. The priest's conjured avatar buckles, letting out a soul-shredding wail of agony. A cultist screams in horror as the magical backlash ripples out. Arden invokes the twin solar prominences. His strength surges to impossible levels. He lunges forward, manifesting the legendary technique Blazing Spear. Clad in white-hot flames, the spear collides with the priest's violet corruption in a violent deadlock. The impact triggers a massive firestorm. Staggering back, the priest can't fathom such overwhelming brute force. Engulfed in a localized sun, he shrieks as the very building begins to disintegrate around them. Debris rains down through the embers as the smoke clears, revealing a battlefield turned to ash. Cultists lie broken across the courtyard. The priest crawls through the soot, gasping for air as a shadow looms. Arden stands tall, wreathed in fading embers. He looks down at the broken man with a cold question. The priest wheezes atop a ruined magic circle. Arden closes in, demanding the absolute truth. He asks about the secret mage cabal pulling the strings. The priest only responds with a chilling, hollow laugh. Bloodied and broken, he cackles like a lunatic. He taunts the Archduke's cold exterior, claiming it's the mark of a true ardent. Silencing him instantly, the Archduke dismisses the mindless chatter. He demands the truth, and he wants it now. The priest confesses the cult's existence, but sneers that its mysteries are untouchable. He begins glorifying their shadowy spiritual leader, boasting of his blind loyalty. Vowing to drag the Archduke straight to hell, he ignites a violent self-destruction spell. The Archduke grips the priest's skull, crushing the incantation mid-breath. Agony rips through the priest as his mana is forcibly hijacked. Clenching the vibrating blood magic core, the Archduke leaves the priest paralyzed with shock. How could a mere mortal possess such power? Having crushed similar suicide attempts before, the Archduke expertly purged the volatile blood magic before it could even detonate. With veins pulsing with cursed light, the priest brands him a demon. He screams that even this insane strength won't suffice. No secrets will be leaked to an outsider. Coldly, the Archduke watches as the priest begins reciting a final vow. These are the bloodbound terms of their cult. He reveals their lives are sworn to that mysterious great spiritual leader. As the priest's form begins to liquefy into raw mana, the Archduke identifies the taboo seal. It vaporizes anyone recalling forbidden info. The magic is incredibly high tier. Even with his insane stats, the Archduke realizes this curse is currently beyond his ability to break. Those dying words and that complex seal prove one thing. This conspiracy runs way deeper than a single rogue priest. The Archduke vows to hunt down this spiritual leader. Meanwhile, under the cover of night in a distant manor, sinister laughter echoes. A noble raises a glass celebrating Count Lugon's total public disgrace. This is a massive win for them. The Count applauds his aide Hans for the flawless intel. It was Hans's tip-off that truly sealed the deal. It blocked Logan from deploying reinforcements, a crushing blow he won't even realize until daybreak. Hans humbly bows, claiming it was his duty. He then asks what secret strategy toppled the Archduke's fortress. The Count grins, eager to boast about his cunning. They simply mirrored the Archduke's own blitz tactics, launching a midnight strike with mercenary blades. Lohmann's men were absolute fodder. Hans cringes internally, seeing the Count's massive delusion. He knows the Archduke is just playing with them like puppets. Compared to him, Lawrence's schemes are mere child's play. These master plans are nothing but cheap parlor tricks. Suddenly, the Count barks Hans's name, snapping him back to reality. He rewards Hans by promoting him to intelligence chief. Hans is stunned, paralyzed by the fear of such a massive burden. The Count insists his results speak for themselves. He pairs Hans with an elite knight and issues a direct command: uncover the